Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's Comic Book Roundtable. Yay! Kermit the Frog
Yay.
arms. Yes. And tonight with me, we have Damien, Sleepy Reader 666. How's it going, sir?
Great pleasure to be here. It's maybe turning into a monthly or a little more than monthly occurrence for me to make it on your show.
And you seem to make it on the same weeks, so we talk about the same books.
Right. Yes, I have
so.
Savage Dragon this week. I'm always talking about Savage Dragon.
Right.
Well, I really have nothing new to say about it. But
I just think it's interesting. It seems like Savage Dragon
Yeah.
comes out every week then, basically, so.
Savage Dragon is very consistent in
Yeah.
its delivery.
Right. You're surviving the snowpocalypse there in New York.
Yeah, we had like a quarter of an inch and everybody had to cancel everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the bigger problem is, and you've been through it, is there's just all these colds going around.
Yes.
So it seems like everyone is sick, and then the moment they stop being sick, then they catch something else.
It's it's definitely been that. And we've had snow here. We've had more snow than you had, but more snow than what we normally get. Last month we set a record.
Right.
We were 3 times as much snow in the month of February as we've ever had. So
yeah, and we had 3 dustings of snow in February, which is 3 more than we would normally have.
Right.
Portland usually, just for those who don't know, just rains all winter, and maybe we used to, before the weather started changing, only get snow maybe every 3 years.
Yeah.
And now we seem to get it 3 or 4 times a year.
Right.
And but no one's figured out how to deal with it yet.
Right. It just shuts everything down because you're not prepared. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. They shut stuff down here too. When I was a kid, we had more snow at one time.
Right.
And nothing shuts down. And now it's like, 3 flakes at the ground and they cancel school, or it's 2 hours delay.
Society has become wimpy,
I guess. You toughen up back in the old days.
Right. We're all been babied by our iPhones and can't take care of ourselves anymore.
Exactly. With that, let's talk some comics.
Yes.
We're gonna jump right into Marvel books. I'm gonna let you talk about a Marvel book first because I only have one Marvel book this weekend. You've got all the Marvel books, clearly. So
okay, yeah. And 2 of my Marvel books I misplaced, so I also have them on my iPad.
Okay.
This one is Love Romances. I think if I tilt the iPad, you can see the cover. I don't remember a title called Love Romances. I remember other Marvel romance titles. So I don't know if this in any way relates to it, but several of the stories in it are science fiction stories. 2 of them actually about robots. I feel like there's kind of a thing in our society right now about romance with robots. There's been several comics like that, and I feel like that happens on TV shows occasionally.
Yeah.
I'd say the overwhelming feature of this was that I did not like the art. But I like the idea of 3 stories in one comic. And the worst one, sad to say, was the Gail Simone one. I could see she was trying to do something cool with her science fiction idea. Like, it turned out at the end, the person whose heart got broken was the robot who was programmed to help a human get over their heartbreak. Or did I get it wrong? And it was actually a human trying to help a robot get over her heartbreak. I was a bit confused by the story. I don't know. It's very hard to make a story that's only 5 pages or 6 pages, really.
For sure.
And then there was kind of this cute silent story about a guy with his wife who was a ghost and how they had to get over losing each other. And finally he packs away her clothing and then she disappears and goes off, presumably to heaven. I just spoiled the entire story, sorry. But I don't think anyone will care. So even, I guess if it wasn't science fiction, it's supernatural. So it's interesting. I wonder if the writers just were more into writing supernatural and science fiction stories than just romance.
Right.
So none of it had that old kind of, oh, he broke my heart and going out with my best friend kind of vibe.
Which is what most of those comics seem to be like, at least the ones that I have acquired over the years.
Yes.
Conventionally, it's
so on one hand, these things are celebrating 80 years of Marvel Comics, I guess.
Right. Because this is one of those. This is one of those one-shot things, right? They're just recycling the title.
Exactly. I should have said that. Yeah, it's totally a one-shot. Even though it's number one, it also says one-shot on it.
Right.
And my favorite one was about this couple that gets themselves uploaded into robot bodies, but they ran out of good bodies for the male. So he gets put into the body. Here, I'll do the zoom in. He gets put into the body of a balding, schlubby robot. And she dumps him right away.
Oh, wow.
And then it has a happy ending. But it was it was funny. But nothing like the romance that we're presumably celebrating.
Sure.
It was more like, if anything, it was like a cross between EC Comics and romance, but with art nowhere near the quality of EC Comics.
I'll have to look that title up to see if that was the trope of the, if that was it was in line with that title, or if that's
right. I should look that up too. That's a good point.
If they just chose to take it that way.
Love romances. It almost sounds like a made up title that's a joke.
I almost wonder if I own some of those. But all those titles start to sound the same after a while.
If there were like Silver Age comics that were a combination of romance and science fiction, I'd be all about that. That was
same here. Same here. I mean, even the old ones would be fun to check out if that's the case. That's why I wondered. Huh.
Yeah, so that was a half good, half bad experience. I think Marvel is not. I think there's a pattern of Marvel getting really cheap artists, and then they have their really expensive artists, and they don't keep a stable of like solid but not superstar artists that they use a lot anymore.
Right.
I think DC has more of a stable of the solid artists that you can kind of rely on, even if they're not spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How about you? What was you had one Marvel?
One Marvel book. So Miles Morales Spider-Man, issue 3. This is the end of this little story arc where he kind of teams up with Rhino. So some kids are being kidnapped and turned into, like, I don't know, super soldiers or something like that. They're wearing these high-tech costumes that like body armor that gives them powers, and they're robbing banks and stuff like that. Miles Morales' potentially would-be girlfriend, her little brother is one of the people who's kidnapped. That's what gets him involved. Rhino, his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife's niece or something like that is in. He can't really visit the family because, of course, he's the Rhino and everybody hates him, but he still loves them. So, of course, he feels obligated to, so they team up in this issue. Well, the end of last issue, and then in this issue, Captain America shows up and is kind of teamed up with them for this because they're in Captain America's stomping grounds from being a kid is where they're at. So he just happens to be hanging around for whatever reason, in between beating up Hydra or whatever he happens to be around.
Relax in his old neighborhood.
Sure. So they're chasing these kids down. They find the villain that's is basically trapped in these costumes, and he has a way of kind of mentally controlling them and stuff. And that's all fine. I think the big part of the comic is, I guess, because I've not read any of Miles Morales in anything up until this book. I guess he's had interactions with Captain America in the past. And in this issue, Captain America keeps asking him, well, how would you handle this? What do you want to do? And of course, Miles Morales is this young kid, and in his mind, he's like, oh my God, Captain America, like the strategist, the guy who leads everything is asking me what the battle plan should be, so it's a lot of him basically being head over heels, that whole experience as Captain America is just basically kind of being a supportive person through the book. And it was okay. I'm not sure how much longer I'll stay on the book. It hasn't been amazing. I mean, it's been fun.
Is it a little too cute from your description? It's like it could be going that way.
Yeah, I don't know if cute is the right word for it, but it's definitely it's more fresh-faced and simple. I guess is how I would see it. I would dig this if I was, 10, 11-year-old. I think it could. I mean, it's got enough of the people punching people in the face kind of stuff to be fun as far as that goes, but it never dips anywhere into gratuitously dark stuff like a lot of the books do and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I still like this writer. I mean, but I think this is definitely written for a younger audience. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that kind of that kind of book. But I don't want to read a bunch of them, and I've already got some. I'm reading Ms. Marvel,
right?
That kind of, and I'm curious because this is the same writer who's going to write Ms. Marvel. So
Ms. Marvel, right?
Right. But this is the first thing I've read of Ahmad's that hasn't just kind of blown me away. But I think it's because they're keeping it simpler, not dumb, but just simpler, not as complex or as heavy in a lot of ways, I think. So so yeah, I don't know. I'll try another arc and check, and see what that's like before I make a decision, because I don't hate it, but
I'm guessing he's one of your favorite Marvel writers.
Yes, I'm really
Saladin.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed his Black Bolt a lot. I mean, reading Black Bolt super impressed me, and then I jumped on Abbott, which was an indie book through Boom Studios.
Oh, right. I meant to get that, didn't.
And that really impressed me a lot. So I'm just kind of like, well, anything he's writing, I'm gonna jump on. The only thing is I haven't jumped on is I didn't pick up Exile because they had like a cartoon Wolverine in it and whatnot. I just like that's gonna be a little too goofy, or the wrong kind of goofy that I don't want to read. So I chose not to pick that up. But no, I really just like I said, not bad, just not geared for old me, I guess. I guess
it looks like maybe it's aimed at the same crowd that likes Moon Girl or something.
Yeah. I mean, that would be.
They need a way to distinguish books. This is for 8 years old and up or something. And
right. And I know
some of us want to read and some of us don't. But
it says T on it. I guess it doesn't say T plus, but.
Almost all of them say T on them, though.
And I'm curious about this, not that it really matters, but this, of course, it's issue 3, but it says the legacy number on it is 243. What Spider-Man book is that based off of? Because clearly there's Amazing Spider-Man, right? Which is, I don't know how many.
Is it Ultimate Spider-Man where Miles started, perhaps?
Would they have actually put out 243 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man?
I think they might have.
Really? Wow. Okay.
I might be wrong on that.
I didn't realize.
Or, if they combine Ultimate Spider-Man with the other Miles Morales series they had earlier, and then this one,
maybe
it might be up there.
Maybe so.
Ultimate Spider-Man went for a long time. It was basically the only Ultimate title that kept going.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't realize how long the Ultimate Universe was around, because I never really got around to picking up. About the time I thought, oh, I should start checking out the Ultimate Universe. That's when they decided to blow it up. So.
Right. And it was crappy after a while. It was great in the early days of the Ultimate Universe, and then most of it became
right. Well, this is the salvageable thing out of it, right? Was Miles Morales. I mean, that's the thing that survived, and they crossed it over so they could keep using it while they hosed the rest of the Ultimate.
Right. And whether that was just to keep Brian Michael Bendis happy at the time, or because they felt he was so good they didn't want to lose him.
So Stay Puft is saying that it's either Ultimate Spider-Man or it's the Spider-Man from Todd McFarlane. So McFarlane had his own Spider-Man too, right? Right.
So, back in 1999, they started a new an adjectiveless Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, right? And that's really what this is, other than it having Miles Morales. So maybe that's what it is too. Huh.
Yeah, it could be either. Who knows? It'd be nice if they explained it. Maybe somewhere they.
I don't have an issue. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter to me. I've moved past the fact that they quit keeping things in the same numbers. But I was just curious, seeing that large of a number. It just seemed really big for a book and character I didn't realize had been around.
Yeah, and so like the first 100 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man wouldn't have had Miles Morales in it. It would have been the Ultimate Peter Parker.
Right.
And then slowly Miles took over at some point.
Right. Okay. Cool.
What was I going to say? Yeah, well, this connects to my thought. I'm wondering, at some point, do writers I like and artists I like get sort of eaten up by the Marvel machine and stop being something good? I don't know, but so I really liked I really like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, but Guardians of the Galaxy 2 seems to be falling all over itself. The art
flattened way out. Same artist as in #1. And it feels like the writer's just buying time while he figures out what will happen next. Like he hit it out of the park with the first issue. This is Donny Cates is the writer.
Right.
And his sort of key artist, Jeff Shaw, who did God Country with him and did the Thanos book that's kind of kicked him off at Marvel with him. And both of them just seem to, suddenly the level dropped way down after issue 1. But, it might be that they're building up stuff to get to the next issue in a way that, but to me, it reads like someone who's not sure what their next move is.
So you think Cates has stretched himself out? Because, I mean, it's like all of a sudden he just like exploded and was writing like 100 books, right? I mean,
right. And so it might just be, we have this high concept. Donny Cates is going to reboot the Guardians of the Galaxy, and here's what it is. It's going to have Beta Ray Bill in it, and who are the other members? The Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so it's like we've manufactured this team, but then maybe we don't really know what to do with them. That ostensibly they're searching for whoever Thanos has reincarnated himself into. And there is kind of this bizarre plot of somehow Star Fox, Thanos' brother, has convinced all these superpowered cosmic characters that they have to go around killing lots of people till they kill the right one that has Thanos in him.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting. It could be played really dumb or whatever.
Right.
My first thought actually was that Star Fox himself must be the one Thanos has reincarnated inside. And that's why he's like, okay, we've got to kill a lot of people. Because Thanos likes killing people, but I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly.
So there's interesting elements, but almost all of those come from the first issue. And I was particularly surprised to see Shaw's artwork go downhill so quickly. It's not like it's done bad, but all the layouts have become boring, and the characters just seem to be posing in the center of the panel and that kind of thing.
And this is coming out monthly, right? This wasn't one of those books where the first 2 issues come out like in 2 weeks with each other?
I'm not sure. I don't know for sure.
I was trying to think if it was the last time that we talked that you talked about it.
Would they have the dates on Marvel Unlimited or the Marvel app here? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I just wonder. I just wonder if that was the pressure, for the artist too, to try and get those first 2 issues in the can right away, kind of a deal.
Yeah. Well, and the first issue was kind of oversized, like maybe 30 pages or 32 pages. Yeah. So they came out about a month apart, but still, it may be kind of rushed. But my suspicions about Marvel have nothing to do with the political stuff. But I do often think there may be an unhealthy editorial stuff that goes on at Marvel at times. And they may be encouraged to just crank out as much as possible and not worry about quality so much.
Right.
Because I think right now Marvel puts out 90 issues a month. And DC puts out 50 something. And DC is cutting back because they think it's too many. Right.
Well, yeah, the whole.
Yeah, we talked about that the last time.
And the Pro, and there's been more come out since the last time we talked.
Right.
We've gotten kind of like the cliff notes of what was discussed at the Comics Pro event thing that that the retailers go to and whatnot, and they were talking. They had guest speakers there and whatnot. They were talking about, and one of them emphasized that they thought that it was a huge mistake that that the big two especially were not, that they didn't have real editors.
Right. I missed that. That's
real editors working for them anymore. It was that they weren't focused. The editors weren't focused on the right stuff anymore. They were trained to be wranglers and PR people, not this is what we need to do, creative people to make a good book. They've trained them to be focused on keeping the wheels on the bus, but not making it drive well, kind of a thing is how some critics are coming at the books and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, Sean agrees about the art in Guardians, I think, if I'm understanding him right. Hi, Sean.
Hey.
Glad Sean's still out there.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand Mr. Gretzky's comment. Fantastic Four is awesome. I don't know. Maybe some other.
Yeah, earlier they were talking about Fantastic Four.
Okay.
Somebody else was commenting on the fact that they were like Fantastic Four.
And I guess that's it for comments about all this. People are saying hi to each other. Someone has complained that we are not responding to comments enough.
Okay.
Some live streams, I think, are more about the interaction with the commenters, and we're more sort of every now and then stop and look at the comments but we're mostly about chatting about specific comics to each other.
Because if I'm just watching just the comments, I find that I can't keep a consistent thought going in my head.
Right.
Because I'm busy. Yeah. I'm busy over the corner of my eye, seeing what's being put out there, and so then I end up losing my train of thought. So that's my excuse for not always acknowledging everything that's going on.
Fantastic Four seems to be a real divided case. Some people seem to be really loving it. I don't think either you or I are too crazy about it.
Yeah, I dropped it. I was not enjoying it, so
I'm still getting it, but I'm falling behind on it, reading wise, because I'm not too enthused about it.
Right. So you had one more Marvel book, right?
The other Marvel book, which I also have momentarily misplaced the physical copy, was Doctor Strange, which I'm really enjoying. It's Mark Waid and sorry, I won't. I was going to try and get the cover on my iPad, but it's Mark Waid and Javier. What's his? Oh, sorry, go ahead. What's your question?
So are they still in space? Because I know when that first started out, it was going to be Doctor Strange in space kind of a thing, and
they came back from Jesus Saiz is the artist.
Oh, cool!
Really kind of kicking butt. His style has changed a bit since he did like Swamp Thing. I remember loving him on Swamp Thing.
Right.
So Doctor Strange was in space for about 5 or 6 issues, and then he came back to Earth. The friend he made in space, this female alien archaeologist of mystical archaeology, is still somewhat in the picture. And he kind of regained his powers in outer space and came back. So there is a bit of a recapitulation of the plot line that's been going on and on about the price of his power and stuff.
Right.
And so there's a new kind of reckoning that gives us this giant bureaucracy in some other dimension that he's battling. But it's really been fun, and it's somehow, in a way I don't fully understand, ties in with Dread Dormammu. But there was this issue had a really cool sequence where Wong, is that his name? Wong, the assistant to Doctor Strange, has a martial arts battle with Dormammu.
Oh, really?
And they're both giant size over New York City because
cool.
Strange's magic has made Wong giant size. Anyway, it's one of those just sort of fun comics under Mark Waid, which, when Mark Waid decides to do something just kind of for kicks, sometimes it works out quite well.
No, it sounds fun. I mean, I steered away from it because I didn't like the idea of Doctor Strange in space, I guess. So
I didn't like that either at first, but I kind of was won over, and then I was disappointed when they came back from space.
Oh, and see, now I might pick it up because they're not in space anymore.
Right.
So.
Well, you could probably drop in with the next issue if you wanted.
Okay.
Because they just kind of wrapped up this arc.
Well, I'll check it out because I do like Doctor Strange. So.
Is there any Marvel news? I'm trying to remember.
You mean besides the fact that the Disney's going to close all of Marvel down, just shut the whole thing down? That was the last couple, today or yesterday, that suddenly burst all over the place. Sites that we will not name.
Yes.
Ran these stupid stories saying they were going to shut down.
And I unfollowed someone on Twitter who I'd been hanging on to for years, even though he seemed crazier and crazier to me, who said, if you don't believe that Marvel's going to shut down Disney, then you're woke and you have a problem. You need to wake up from being woke. Which this whole mixture of the idea of politics and whether Marvel's failing or not, it's just absurd.
It is.
Marvel failing or not failing is just business, and that's all it is.
Right.
And corporate structure and things like that.
And even if they suddenly revamp the entire place and narrow the thing down to a couple dozen books. It's not going to go completely away because it still is to some degree. It is the seeding grounds for these massively popular movies and whatnot.
Right.
And it's not like they're writing their own material for these movies. I mean, they're mining kind of bits and pieces of the stuff that's being produced. So
right.
I just don't see that. They're going to maintain. They have to find a way to maintain those brands. And so, if nothing else, it's just as a brand, they're going to they're going to be around in some sense.
And if you looked at Into the Spider-Verse was full of recent Marvel continuity.
Tons.
You know, Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales and a bunch of other stuff.
Yep.
That comes from the last few years.
Well, and the concept. I mean, the whole concept of these different dimensions that have all these different Spider-Man. I mean, that all is relatively the last year or two. They've really they really played those a lot. So I just don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the market's not going to change. I'm not saying that there couldn't possibly be restructuring all around the board and how comics are sold but comics as going to be dead. I don't know, at least since the 90s, it's been the comics are going to end. I mean, so
print comics are nearly $1 billion industry. It's not, people are not going to throw away that money. They might restructure, and Marvel's been doing a lot of odd things, but I don't understand. And for a while now, I have not understood Marvel's business plan. I don't get what's going on there. I mean, I think DC's doing weird stuff too, but I find enough bits and pieces of information to kind of get a sense of maybe what they're up to, but it's been very quiet. Marvel's been just very, very quiet as far as, what are they really up to? Yeah. Kind of a thing, which just seems strange. So, I mean, I suppose this is not true around the country, but the shop I go to, I don't think they would be that hurt if Marvel went away anyway. But I suppose, because my daughter and I were they have all they list their top graphic novels, and all of the top ones were indie comics. The two top were Brian K. Vaughan books. Yeah, Brian K. Vaughan could bring down my comic book shop.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of their top 10 or almost all of their top 10 were indie books. Yeah. In their graphic novel sales.
Yeah. So I haven't heard of any really new news kind of thing. I mean, our friend David Lee sounds like he did the number crunching on the whole War of the Realms. If you wanted to actually get the whole kind of the whole storyline and whatnot, it's like what, $200?
Yeah.
In a month
for the first month of it.
For if you wanted to pick up all of the stuff, and questionably, are there still people out there who do that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't know who does it.
Right.
I know that.
There used to be. It used to be. There were a lot more of us. I mean, I don't anymore. But there used to be a lot more of us that got it all, kind of a deal. And I don't know anybody does that anymore. Yeah. So how do you? Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't know. Maybe there are people who buy it all in trades. Maybe they find it sells afterwards.
Sure. I mean, I get that, but I can't imagine monthly though.
Yeah, no, it just seems way too much.
See, Mike Pumple there, he's saying that he bought the whole Siege run when that came out.
I wonder how many books that was.
Yeah, I don't know.
I did not read that, so I don't know. He says I was that guy once.
What?
Maybe he's been burnt too many times.
Well, I've not with, way back when Marvel first did event books, when it wasn't quite so, entrenched in everything. I got everything, but that was back like Secret Wars 2, kind of a deal. But man, I don't. And I've done it with DC in the past, but I would never do it with them either anymore. That's too overwhelming. And with the trades the way they are and whatnot, if I really, really want to read it, I can go and get it all. And, it's like trying to chase, Blackest Night kind of a thing, trying to chase all of that stuff when that event was hitting. I was like, no, that's when I first started really swearing off events, and was way easier to pick up in trades and catch everything that way if I really wanted to. So
Yeah, that's what I tell myself. If it turns out that everyone says it was great, then I'll go read the trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
it looks like people are mostly agreeing with us. Stay
yeah,
puft,
or you know,
these
or
Marvel events.
yeah, or those kinds of books that they show up in, you know, for those of you who are lucky enough to have dollar bins and stuff like that.
Right.
Lots of times that's the stuff
Right.
that ends up in those books. So, yeah.
Although dollar bin hunting can be a little frustrating when you can find 2/3 of something and then the other
Sure.
third.
Sure.
So a couple of times because of dollar bin hunting, I've ended up then going, not because of events, but just runs that I discover, getting
Right.
the last few books from mycomicshop.com at higher prices, just to flesh it out.
Yeah. 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 But I don't know of any other Marvel news. I don't remember anything else. Can't think of any announcements or that sort of thing.
Yeah, because their big event they've been hyping for a long time. We've talked about it probably twice already.
Right. So
DCBS should have a dollar bin. Don't they kind of have some back issues they sell for $1 later on?
Yeah, they do sometimes. If they've overstocked, if they're like, you know, just like a comic book store, if they've bought in too much, because they are, you know, they're a virtual comic book store. If they've bought in too much, sometimes they'll roll out stuff at, you know, really, really low prices and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you know, but their stuff, quite honestly, you know, some of that stuff you can get 50% off anyway. I mean, that doesn't put it.
You already got what you want.
That doesn't put it right. That doesn't put it at $1, but still, generally, anything that I wanted, I'd already gotten anyway. So,
yeah. Sean's waiting for the trade on Heroes in Crisis, which I guess I am too. I mean, I don't know if I'll read it at all, but if I do, it'll be in the trade.
Yeah. I haven't gotten this week's comics, and of course, issue 5 of that 5 I think came out this week. There's 5 or 6, and I hear a lot of people who really have hated the book up to this point. This issue really turned stuff around for them. So not that they love it, but they get why what's happening is happening. The stuff that seemed very horrible at the beginning, it's now like, oh, okay. So
yeah. But that's a much more civilized event. It's not crossing over into very many comics.
Right. Well, as a matter of fact, it was originally 6 issues, and they had 3 spin-off books, and they argued, the creators argued to have it just all put together, so it was all in one place, so you weren't having to chase down other stuff. Now, in the DC stuff, I'll be talking this story isn't directly connected, but it's using dynamics from the Heroes in Crisis story to put these two characters in the conflict that they're in. Just like in the Green Arrow book, you know, it affected the Green Arrow book in that with Roy being dead, that clearly messes with Ollie quite a bit.
Right.
With Arsenal being dead in it. So that affected that book, but it wasn't a crossover. You don't have to read the other ones.
Right.
There's enough information in these to tell you wouldn't have to have read the Crisis stuff. And if you're just reading the Crisis stuff, certainly do not pick this book up.
You don't have to read all this side stuff to get the full Crisis story.
Even if you want to read the side stuff, don't pick this up.
Is that our segue into DC?
Yes, this is our segue into DC. I did not enjoy this. Of course, I didn't get the Flash issue that's in between. So this is part 3 of the price. And I feel like I paid a price to get this book and to read it. I mean, this whole Gotham Girl thing is just cropped up. She's wrecking stuff. You don't know why. She's attempted to reanimate her brother, Gotham. And I don't think that if I picked up the third, you know, the Flash issue, that I would enjoy this anymore. I just don't care. It feels very disruptive. And yeah, I mean, there's a little bit, there's tension between Batman and the Flash, which stems out of the Heroes in Crisis, in that they both have kind of their own idea of who's done what or whatever. Flash is calling Batman out quite a bit on the fact that Batman's always keeping stuff secret. He supposedly always has this extra plan for whatever, and because of his kind of shenanigans around that, that's why they get into some of the problems they have, is because Batman's keeping secrets that they all should know, and they wouldn't have those surprises and whatnot. But it's Yeah. Other than for collecting purposes, I would have not gotten these. I mean, there was just nothing about them to me.
Is the art pretty?
No.
No. Oh, then that's really sad.
No, I mean, I didn't. Well, no, the art isn't bad. It's Gilliam March. I like Gilliam March's style. By no means was this exceptional, though. It was all right. It was all right, but some big,
big splash pages
and whatnot. But I like I said, I like Gilliam March. I like his noses. I like some of the way some of his stuff looks and whatnot. The coloring is by the tip is Moray, who normally does his coloring. It was okay. It seemed a little different than some of what I've seen in the past, but I don't know. I am not. It seems pointless. It's clearly just kind of we need to put something in. We're just gonna do something, and that be the end of it and whatnot. Right. I see in the comments people are talking about the Doomsday Clock. And I have one thing to say about I'm not getting the Doomsday Clock because that would be another event that I knew was going to be massively delayed. Not really interested in the Watchmen tie over and stuff. But I have to say, this cover art makes me really want to pick up the book.
That particular cover? I mean, I've liked the cover art all along.
Well, because of who's in it.
Oh,
it's Black Adam, the Creeper, and what's her name? The Wonder Woman villain, Gigantica, the lady who gets really huge. I love those characters. Those are just to me those are just super fun villains. I mean, I don't know if they're really in the book or not, but every time I see that ad, I'm like, oh man, I have no interest in reading it, but I do love those characters. So, but
Sean, I'm just talking to Sean Riaz.
Sure.
I don't think we can compare your art to Gilliam March. It's just such a different style. I could come and go with March's artwork.
Sure. But I mean, so I like his artwork because it's just a little bit different. And normally I really like the colorist that works along with him because
that always helps. Yeah.
Because the color palette's just a little strange. It uses more greens and purples and just kind of off colors of that. And I've just enjoyed him clear back when he was doing he would do some fill-in issues of Batman and Robin and Detective Comics and stuff like that. Back when Dick Grayson was
when he was Batman.
When he was Batman, and I just really kind of I kind of dig it from that and whatnot. So
I feel like we saw more of him during the New 52 than recent years.
Yeah, he's not been doing so much. He's doing some of his own personal work.
Oh yeah,
and then kind of getting some freelance fill-in sort of stuff in between his own.
I feel like I might have heard about him doing some European albums of a sexual nature or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I think his career path started at. He was basically doing artwork for the equivalent of what would be like a either an Italian or Spanish Playboy magazine kind of thing. That he would do the splash art kind of stuff in that. I think it's where a lot of his work has come from in the past.
Right. Yeah, I remember being kind of surprised when I read he did erotic work in Europe because that's not what we're seeing from him.
Right. Well, some people would question that because, of course, he did when Catwoman rebooted with Judd Winnick. He was gotten all the trouble for the covers and the topless.
Oh, was he the topless? He was the artist on that.
Right, and the topless Celine, where she's pouring the diamonds across her chest, and her racing through her house trying to get her clothes on as she's being attacked. That whole
you're right.
You're right. He was the artist through all of that. Now, I didn't think that was erotic or whatever, but I mean that's yes. So he can and does at times draw bodies in the extreme, but he does it with the guys too, though. So it's not like it's just a.
Well, Sean says he might have done Gotham City Sirens, but then he says he would be a great fit for heavy metal, which I would disagree with. A lot of his superhero work seems to me a little bit like updated 90s superhero art. But
yeah.
Which is why sometimes I don't like his work and sometimes I do.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where you could make that comparison. Yeah. If you follow him on like Twitter or Instagram, you can see what he's up to. They have to blur the pictures. because he hangs out at a lot of, I mean, on his free time for practice drawing, he basically hangs out on the topless beaches. And,
right.
And
maybe he's
subjects.
done stuff that would have been a great fit for heavy metal. I just haven't seen it. So I think of him on his superhero work as more kind of an outgrowth of those 90s kind of exaggerated figures.
Right. And I'm trying to think if he did do Gotham City
Stay Puft says he did.
Yeah. See, that does sound familiar. Yeah. Yeah. I love those books too. So
yeah. Okay, was there any DC that you enjoyed? Because I only have one DC book.
Oh, okay. So Aquaman, are you on Aquaman?
No, I have not read Aquaman. I burnt out somewhere in the Dan Abnett run, which I was enjoying, but at some point I just burnt out on it.
Well, because it was still going twice a month, right? I mean, sometimes that alone is a
and they stretched out the whole rebellion in Atlantis thing to a point where I lost interest.
Right. So this is the all new Aquaman.
Right.
I don't know if the all new was there before, but so Kelly Sue DeConnick written Aquaman. That's largely why I picked it up, just to see if she was going to do something, interesting. I do find Kelly Sue DeConnick interesting. So, but
what have you thought so far? Oh, sorry.
I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's interesting. I saw some people on Twitter saying that, this might be a fine story, but it's not an Aquaman story. And I immediately wanted to argue with that. I'm like, what do you mean? Of course it's Aquaman. He's in the book, so clearly it's an Aquaman story. It's just not the Aquaman story that you. And then I started thinking, wait, I've been kind of saying that potentially about some Batman stuff that I've been reading lately. Right. So I had to kind of dial that back and go, okay, what it really did was it made me relook at the Batman stuff I'm reading and just accept that it's not the Batman that I want to read, but that doesn't mean that it's not a Batman story. And so it's actually been a good thing for me. Right. I don't read lots of Aquaman, so I couldn't tell you this is.
Which is why you don't mind if it's not
exactly
an Aquaman story in the way that some other people might.
Exactly. So this issue, love the art in it. This issue kind of plays with mythology in a general sense. First there was the earth, there was nothing, and then there was water and there was air. They are these deities, kind of a thing going on while Aquaman and this other woman on this island are going to visit her mother. She's like some changeling found child. Aquaman does not know who he is. I mean, that's a turnoff for a lot of people. Amnesia story. He just washed up on the shores. Up until this issue, he has been afraid of the water, kind of. He thought the water was bad and that it's what was going to hurt him, and it is what had hurt him. The people on this island kind of bring him to the ocean and just about darn near drowned him. And that's when he realizes, oh, I'm fine with the water because he can part it. He can do whatever. He's fine in the water. So now he's not afraid of the water. So they're off to visit. And the island they're living on, the sea around them, the ocean around them is basically dead. They can't get any fish out of it. They're kind of starving to death. Somebody needs to do something. So this woman is going to supposedly visit her mother, who is some like sorceress, or we don't know exactly what, and see if she will take the curse off the island or whatever that might be. Well, she's like, from the mythology that's told in this, her mother is this old deity, this old god who has been broken up into lots of pieces. Well, she's gathered all of her pieces and just needs one more piece, and that one more piece is in her daughter, it sounds like, if I'm understanding the story right. So it's all going to come together. So, yeah, maybe it's not an Aquaman story at this point.
It sounds a little more like a Vertigo type of story.
Yeah, well, it has it feels very Greek to me, is what it feels like. It has that kind of, Jason and the Argonauts, or that kind of a, because it's, like I said, because it's dealing in in gods and them messing with people. It has all those kinds of elements to it, and there's these huge splash pages huge splash pages of, like, here's the world, more lands created, the god of water doesn't really like it much, but his wife Salt is like, no, this is okay. They create humans basically created as kind of a tribute to those gods, because of course we have salt in our body and liquid and blah, 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 kind of thing. I mean, I'm reducing it down to dumb, but I don't know. To me, it read well. Like I said, to me, it read a lot like a, like what would be partially a Greek telling of something,
right?
Sort of a thing. But I love this huge splash page of them. I mean, maybe that's wasted page, but I don't know. I like it because how dramatic it is.
Yeah.
But I'm
so it would depend. If you are just looking for another Aquaman adventure, it may be disappointing. But if you're looking for seeing Kelly Sue DeConnick create kind of a mythos, then it's a really cool book.
And see, and I like that. I mean, I do the idea of taking something that's always been this straight whatever, and trying to give it some other element. Cool. I mean, I'm all for that. Whereas the stuff I'm complaining about with Batman, it just feels like Batman's got a weird voice. It's not that they're doing something. It's not like they're fundamentally taking Batman and taking him in a direction that I'm like, no, I can't accept that. I just don't like the voice currently that's a detective. So to me, that's not exactly the same.
Different, yeah.
Right. But I mean, I could compare this to Jeff Lemire and Sorrentino's take on Green Arrow, where they tried giving Green Arrow a mythos beyond just being a rich guy with with arrows.
Right.
And I like that. I mean, as much as I am probably a Green Arrow purist, I like that. I enjoyed it because it was interesting trying to give him something beyond just being what he was. And maybe that's what this is to some degree. So
and it sounds kind of like similarly the Wonder Woman of Azzarello's Wonder Woman kind of had that.
Right.
It's almost as if Wonder Woman was just part of a larger mythological story.
Right.
And that upset some people, and I enjoyed it a lot. So
same here. Now, this is not that. I mean, to me, that was an awesome run of comics.
Okay, so this is not at that level.
This is fine. This is fine. I'm enjoying. I'm curious to see what happens in it, whatnot. But no, it's not like that Wonder Woman stuff where I'd be going, "Oh my gosh, this is." But I'm enjoying it. I mean, to me, it's interesting to see what.
I'll probably pick it up in trade. I'm guessing from what I'm hearing. Comic book commenter did not like it and has dropped it. So it's just not going in the direction he would want, I suppose.
Right, and I could totally get that. I mean, if you're, this is what my Aquaman's supposed to be. This is not. I mean, it's, they're kind of going off wherever, kind of a thing. So yeah.
And Sean Riaz is referencing Fathom, which I've never read. I've sort of seen images of Fathom, and I never knew what it was about.
That's is that like an Aspen comic?
I think it's Aspen.
Yeah.
Was it a Michael Turner creation that then was carried on by other people? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure either. Yeah. So anyway, I'm enjoying it. It's not blowing my mind, but I'm enjoying it. What's your DC book?
Damage.
Speaking of
which
90s,
I am enjoying, and it's ever more like the Hulk of my youth. He's just fighting giant monsters on an island full of giant monsters in this issue. And the first one he fights looks suspiciously like Fing Fang Foom, I think. The famous Marvel dragon Fing Fang Foom. And so it's just kind of fun. And the idea that I guess Batman has sent him to this island of monsters because he wouldn't work with Batman on trying to become a hero. But he does have a problem because he only stays in his monster form for an hour, and then he's human for 23 hours.
Oh boy!
He's on this island of monsters, so
I
don't know how well they'll play with that. But along comes this. So there's a character. What does he call himself? Congo Bill. And the way I feel like I should know him from obscure Silver Age DC comics.
Yeah.
And he kind of rescues him, stops him from fighting monsters, but also rescues him from being crushed by monsters when he turns human. And then you don't mind if I spoil this, so anyone watching, if you don't want damage spoiled, stop listening for a minute. But Congo Bill turns out to turn into a giant gorilla, I guess at night or something, like a werewolf. And I suspect that was not the original Congo Bill story, but I don't know. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's only got a few more issues. I think it's going to be canceled. But it really has improved a lot over time. But it's still a very simple bash 'em up. Sean says he facepalmed every time I saw anything from Damage. if you facepalm to other stuff you've seen, you're going to continue to facepalm to this stuff. It's just one giant fight with monsters.
Yeah.
And the art is incredible, except when he has to draw the character as a human, and then it kind of goes way downhill too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what that's about, because I know that Loprenzi can draw humans just fine, but
right.
It's like he knows where the bread and butter in this comic is, so he focuses his energy on the monsters, maybe.
Right. Another DC book I did enjoy. I enjoyed Catwoman, issue number 8. So Jolene Jones is off of doing the art.
The art, right.
So she's just doing the covers. And the artist that did Suicide Risk is the artist on the interiors on it. So I enjoy that.
Right. Suicide Risk.
Yeah. For the few of us that read that.
How does she do with superhero, costume superheroes?
I don't know.
It looks good.
Yeah, I mean, largely it's just Catwoman. It's like she has to draw a bunch because there aren't
other costume superheroes.
Right. Penguin's in it. Beyond that, there are no other costumed characters. Per se. I like this. There's this huge fight scene. Other than you wouldn't like the coloring because it's very dark. They're in an unlit building, and there's all these black, like mummy type zombie people that are chasing after her.
It looks fine from here. There's some dark that I like and some dark that I don't, but it's hard to tell when you're looking at a computer.
Right. I mean, it looks really good. The panel works really good. The layout of it, the sequencing of it and stuff. I really like. The story is not super deep. Well, it's not that it's not deep. It's just it's not thick each issue. It's very uncondensed. That's the word I want to be. It's very, very spread out. What's being told here is we're not at the point of it feeling like it's dragging, but it could. I'm reading it and going, I'm enjoying it, but I bet you I would enjoy it more if I had a bulk of it all at once to read at one time. It definitely has that kind of a of a feel to it. She's still dealing with this woman who is obsessed with her own looks. She's kind of, she's
with the falling apart body.
I mean, she's missing her nose. In this issue, she tries bringing a loved one back to life. She gets this stuff that potentially could resurrect a person, and it doesn't really go as planned. And then Penguin hires Catwoman to steal the source of this magic thing, but Catwoman doesn't realize that that's what she's doing. She does manage to get it stolen, and then she gets sucker punched by the Penguin by the end of the book, which you'd think she would know that was coming, but
right.
Sort of thing. But no, I'm still liking it. It's not, this issue wasn't quite as sharp as like what some of the Lady Killer has been of Jolene Jones, but it still has some of those same sorts of kinds of elements to it and whatnot. So I'm enjoying it. I know a lot of people got off the book once they knew that Jolene Jones wasn't doing the art on it anymore, because that's a big draw. I mean, and it is for me too. I mean, she's like Becky Cloonan. They can both write, but for me, they're artists before they're writers. I mean, I rather see their artwork as opposed to reading their writing. But like I said, I like the character. I like the story. It's enjoyable so far. Are starting to move away now from her. Like, this issue didn't give us any time for her to have any kind of feeling sorry for herself over the whole not getting married thing. Because they have done some of that. I felt like up to this point they've done a good job of her still occasionally having these moments of regret and whatnot over having walked away from what could have been a beautiful life for herself.
Well, and I'm not reading Batman, but I gather that Batman's completely changed in many ways by the failure of that happening. So you would think maybe she's gone through some.
Right. Well, she does. I mean, when this issue there was no downtime. In the other issues, when there has been downtime, she is literally laying around the house at times, kind of in that kind of crippled state of emotional of just I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to whatever because of that stuff. So I think it's been handled well. because they could have just started this series and thrown that all out the window and acted like it was no big deal, like it's not even part of the conversation. So I've enjoyed that it is part of the conversation. So
it's interesting that Sean can't even get Catwoman. When you live on a Caribbean island, your comic book buying is trickier than lucky United States people.
Yeah, but he doesn't have snow.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, good point.
It snowed for the first time in history in Hawaii, right? So maybe Trinidad will be next.
Well, on that one island, it snowed in a park that's never snowed on. Yeah, because there is snow. There is snow in Hawaii on one of the peaks, but
yeah, we often get Joel Jones.
That's me.
Name
That's
wrong.
me. That's me. I do it all the time. It's the stupid song. It's the stupid Dolly Parton song. That's what does it. It's all
when you're talking on camera, you get names wrong all the time that you probably wouldn't know right away.
And it may be Jack that is always correcting me too, because there's somebody else that comes on and corrects me all the time too. So
right,
I'm bad at it. I apologize. If she were to watch this, I'd feel really bad. So. So the other DC book I picked up is Justice League, which like I said, I have dropped. This is issue 18. So this is one of the Legion of Doom issues.
Which is that's the every 5th issue or something?
Yeah, basically it's something like that. So I love this cover. It's a Francis Manipool cover. The art inside,
that is an awesome cover.
The art inside is it's not great. The art inside by Ferrier, it's not good. Well, I didn't enjoy it. Basically in this issue, Brainiac's going to tap into Lex Luthor's mind so he can kind of gather all the data so they can wake up this entity that's potentially could destroy the Earth or make everything better. Who knows? Kind of a thing. Well, it's a giant trap. Brainiac's like, haha, now that I've got you under my control, I'm going to gather the information I need, and I'm going to throw your consciousness to the ether, and I'm going to take your body and write it and destroy everything, and slowly kill off the rest of the Legion of Doom and rule of the universe. Standard Brainiac affair. Well, Luthor's like, whoa, wait, let me tell you this story first of how all this stuff happened. So we get this kind of like long story about how Vandal Savage figured out a lot of this stuff millennia ago, and Lex Luthor has finally figured out his role in it, and then he basically kind of booby traps Brainiac. He knew this was going to happen. He knew Brainiac would backstab him, so he's created some sort of virus that somehow makes Brainiac have to back down. I don't know. It was all right. I didn't read it very seriously because, like I said, I'm dropping it. So I read it because I bought it, but it's not like
you weren't very committed to it emotionally.
Right. I like the idea of how this book is being written and whatnot. I just don't like, and it's silly, I guess, because the Justice League should be dealing with the big epic, whatever. I mean, that's the whole point of the Justice League. But it just feels like it's this ticking event book just waiting to happen that's going to explode across all of the other books and stuff. The Snyder parts of it keep tapping into the metal stuff, which I didn't read the metal stuff.
Right.
So references that. So I have no interest in that. It keeps referencing, the Batman Who Laughs Last or whatever. Right. And I don't have any interest, or I haven't been looking at that.
And how heavily will it be tied into the Year of the Villain if you kept up with it? I wonder.
Right. I don't know. But like I said, there's the whole, breaking of the multiverse and this entity that's lying that they've got that they need to resurrect or whatever. I don't know. Just kind of yeah.
I've never really, I can't think of many times where I've really gotten into the Justice League. It's the kind of thing, that's the kind of comic I liked as a little kid because it had more superheroes in it.
Right.
But that doesn't really lead to good stories.
Well, I'm so my thing is I like the idea of a team book. I like the idea of a group of heroes getting together to deal with whatever. But I want, within that, I then want individual stories. I'm more curious and I'm more interested in seeing the interaction between said heroes than I am whatever the grand thing is they need to take care of. I'm much more interested in the dynamics between those characters. I'm not interested in the Trinity for them to go out and beat something up. I'm interested in the Trinity as in their place in the DC universe and how Bruce and Clark interact with each other. You know, how is Diana in that mix? That's the stuff that I'm interested in when those people all get together. I have read Justice League stuff that I've enjoyed a lot. When Grant Morrison was writing Justice League, or maybe it was it JLA, whatever it was called at the time, and it's a Justice League book. I like the Grant Morrison stories quite a bit. I started out liking the Duffy stuff because he really changed up the roster. Suddenly we suddenly had Black Canary as the person in charge of the Justice League. It was going to be interesting, and then of course editorial just wrecked that for him, and he had to walk away from it. So there's been stuff that I've really enjoyed. I did not like the New 52 Justice League whatsoever. And so I keep trying Justice League on and off since then because I like it. That's why part of me really wishes we could get a Justice Society book, because the Justice Society book always felt more like that. It was more about the Justice Society was a family, you know, in a sense, and then there was these things that they had to deal with. So I don't know.
Well, I think it helps when things are based around most of the characters who don't have their own books, and the writer doesn't have to tippy-toe around those characters. So that's why, like, I remember in New 52, I really liked Earth 2, where they could do anything they wanted with those characters. Right. And now Justice League Dark, none of those, or I don't think any of those characters have their own books at the moment, except Wonder Woman.
Right.
So anyway, any other DC?
I don't know. I never know what I should call this. Is this a DC book, Wildstorm?
It doesn't feel like one.
Right. I really, really like this issue 20. You're not reading this, right?
I'm getting it in trade.
Okay. So this issue
I'll forget whatever you say.
Yeah. This issue is largely fight scenes. There's a little bit of classic Warren Ellis commentary at the beginning, like the first page, kind of pointing out just how nuts a lot of stuff is. And things are going really bad for the group that lives on Earth but knows about the whole aliens and whatnot. Io, things are not going well for Io. And the guy's freaking out, and he's asking one of his top guys who's in charge of like the secret hit squads, you know, what should we do? And the guy's like, chaos. Let's start killing people. And the guy's like, what? No, like, seriously. And he goes through this whole, if we kill the right people in the right places, we create instability. No one's going to care about a lady flying around in a mech suit or that, because they're going to be so hung up over all this other stuff, which is, I mean, I like to believe that our actual world government agencies aren't out assassinating people just to cause the stock markets to crash and insane things like that. But it sounded really good in this issue. Yeah. And then the rest of the issue is a giant fight scene. Apollo and Midnighter are back in the book, and they just wreck stuff. And it's just really cool seeing a bunch of scenes of them just wrecking things. It's classic Warren Ellis written kind of fight scenes, and I like those characters, and so it was really cool for that. The comic read super fast. I mean, I had it read faster than I could eat a bowl of cereal. I mean, it was just gone. Right. It was super fast, this issue, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm now we've only got 4 issues after this. I hope there's more something. Because I've really been enjoying this. So
yeah, I'm getting it in trades. I'm gonna be really sad when it's done.
Yeah,
it is a great cover, as Sean says.
Yeah, well, it's hilarious. It's Dr. Midnight. I mean,
okay.
Which is what it says on the truck. It says Dr. Midnight, which I think is hilarious in its own sense, because I mean that's a superhero from Earth 2. But
yeah,
but it's right. It's a play on the old flying saucers coming and scooping up cows, right? At least that's what I take it as, and it has flying saucers in this issue. So, but flying saucers versus Apollo, it does not go well. So,
and I like the whole feeling when reading Wildstorm that Warren Ellis thinks I'm intelligent and can figure out what's going on.
Exactly,
and he's very much in his decompressed mode in a lot of senses, but it's still a dense story at the same time.
Right.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. And that's it for my DC books.
Yeah.
I
feel like there was some DC news that interested me, and now I've slipped my mind. But I learned that Deceased is going to be about zombies.
Yeah.
Which makes me less interested, even though it's written by Tom Taylor, who's a writer I like.
Right.
But
yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound interesting to me. Superman versus a horde of zombies.
No. It didn't interest me in Marvel Zombies. I don't see why it would interest me.
I mean, I don't understand what the challenge is, other than if you can turn them from being zombies back into regular people, not wanting to hurt them. But if they're just truly undead corpses walking around,
right.
that seems silly to me.
It's all about the visual gag of seeing characters you've come to love as grotesque zombies for a while.
Okay.
That's how the appeal of Marvel Zombies felt.
Right. But I didn't get the impression that any of the heroes were zombies. So, yeah. Yes, and in other news, Sean has not been hired yet. So, we're waiting.
I was just about to type, how come Marvel hasn't hired you, Sean, if it takes low standards then?
Because he's not even trying.
Right. He just bombards DC with, I want to do Batman. I want to do Batman.
So they're going to offer him a Martian Manhunter gig or something. He's going, nope, it's Batman or nothing.
Batman or nothing.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
Sorry, Sean, we're just
no
feeling punchy.
Yeah. And I can't think of any DC news that we haven't kind of already. Nothing that's like
maybe there isn't any
come out this week that I can think of. That's no. So talk some independent books. That's largely what my stack is this week.
Me too. That's most of mine.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
You probably did not pick up Mark Millar's Sharky the Bounty Hunter.
I did not.
Good choice.
Yeah. Who is that?
That's Simone Bianchi as the artist.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very basic space bounty hunter story. I mean, we've all seen space bounty hunters, haven't we?
Right.
At least I feel I have. But drawn with Simone Bianchi's pseudo heavy metal style art.
Right.
So it's like this bounty hunter who has debt problems from gambling, and the big bounties come up of this super criminal, and every bounty hunter in the universe is going to want to try and kill her. And meanwhile, he has this little kid who wants him to take him home because he put in jail his uncle who was taking care of him. And so despite he doesn't really want to take care of the kid, but he's going to do it anyway as he tries. So I don't know, I almost picture Mel Gibson in the role or something, even though the person they draw, interestingly, is a unattractive 70s-ish looking bald guy. Not that we bald guys are all unattractive, but just the way he's drawn just seems particularly unappealing.
Well, it's just funny because that's not what I mean. I kind of like that just because it's not.
That's the one thing I like about it,
right? It's not it's not your standard, Mel Gibson or macho looking or James Bond looking kind of a guy. So,
yeah, we've got a little bit of sex and lots of violence. The art, it's funny, now that I'm flipping through it, the art looks pretty good to me, but the art just drove me crazy as I was reading it. The compositions and stuff would draw my eye to the wrong details all the time, and I would be just kind of visually confused. There's all this crazy stuff. I never understand when they draw these white lines around things.
Right. It's their way of.
What is that about? A lot of colorists or artists do that, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like reverse inking. Like instead of putting like a really super heavy line around a subject,
they put a white line around.
Right.
And it makes them, in some of the pictures, it makes them look like cutouts or something.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
And to me, that is distracting. I mean, I like the individual characters, but like that page you show where it's a crowd shot, and each person, they literally look like they've been like glued on afterwards.
Yeah, your eye does not know where to go in these kinds of pictures.
Right. But like I said, each individual, I like the way they look. I like the way they're colored and whatnot. But It is. It's very distracting as far as. I mean, do they have force fields on? Is that why they? Is that why they? You know.
Yeah, so. Sean says he loves Bianchi's art, just not much in the sequentials. So I can definitely see that. You know,
sure.
A cover painting by Bianchi would be awesome.
Right.
And Jack says they're doing a Sharky movie on Netflix.
Well, see, because that's
it'll be interesting to see how they cast it.
You know, because Millar's got that that
he
deal
is Netflix.
with Netflix, right?
It just says Netflix on the back of the comic.
Yeah, because heaven forbid you write a comic book,
right?
To satisfy what a comic book is, as opposed to writing a freaking script that somebody's gonna fake doing storyboards in the form of a comic book to put out.
Well, and most of us who followed Millar and who follow comics a lot have thought for quite a while he's mostly writing for selling the IP.
I don't buy anything that he writes. I don't.
But that's what a lot of people say when they read comics, and I've often seen that too. But I wonder if there's a new, being owned by Netflix now, if there's an even greater pressure for every project he does to definitely be a pitch for a show that would be highly doable. Like some of the things.
So you see him as being owned by Netflix?
In a sense, yeah. It's like he had a company called Mark Millar, and he sold it to another company, and they kept him on as the CEO of the company, but they own him. That's my understanding of it. There may be a limit. Maybe they only own his work for the next 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And this one does have that sometimes dark coloring that I can't stand, where I feel like everything gets lost in the darkness. But,
well, so in that picture you just showed me, that's really strange because they put that white line around, but they only put it around the gun.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. I have no idea.
Yeah, that is super disruptive.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess I won't be getting it any further. I was just curious. It was, I guess it wasn't really that slow of a week, but I wanted more comics. So
right. So I bought Higher Level. This is issue #1, Vertigo book. Speaking of distracting art, because you said the way it was composed and whatnot, I feel that way about this book also. We get these scenes where someone will be talking about something. So we'll get a floating head, which anybody who knows me knows how much I love floating heads.
Yes. That looks like a bad one. Anyway.
Right. We get this floating head talking about some idyllic, whatever the scene is. And then over in the other corner is the guy who is the floating head. But they're not actually in this scene. But they're standing in front of the screen, so it's almost like they're standing in front of a green screen, giving us this thing. And it happens more than once, because then later on, there's this woman who is having this conversation. We're seeing the scene that she's describing. Which, if you're describing it, why are you showing it? And if you're showing it, why are you describing? Anyway, and then here the two people that are part of this conversation are finishing off as they walk off the page, but they're not actually in this scene. I don't know. To me, I don't think that works largely. So the premise of this book is it's set somewhere in the dark future. Clearly we squandered large portions of our resources. Water is a hot commodity, that sort of thing and whatnot. People, where this main character is at, they do a lot of salvaging and whatnot. She's kind of a runner, fixer person. She gets hired to go, take things from one place to another, or, as a courier, as a scout, that sort of a thing. Sometimes as a thief is what her job seems to be. The opening pages of her are her basically having a conversation about picking up a book from a guy, and he said the book was this important thing. It was going to show you how to live, blah, 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 blah. He traded some water for it, and he went off north, probably to his death. The book, the way she describes it, is the Bible, and she thought it was kind of pointless at any rate. My problem with these stories that are set in the like dark future where we've wiped out our resources and whatever, and people are living in the scavenging lands, kind of like a la Roadrunner. But at the same time, there's high-tech drones flying around. There's all this stuff that's really, really like cutting edge kind of thing.
Right.
There's a mob of like cyber mutants in this that about chop up the main character. They almost dissect her because she's gross because she has all these fleshy parts. And they're getting rid of their fleshy parts to embrace the transcending to the next level of humanity, which is shedding your fleshy bits and becoming a cyborg kind of a thing, which all those elements amuse me. But when you squish them all together, and I think you're kind of the same way in some sense, your science fiction has to make some level of sense.
Yes, I like
it.
So
how do you get, so how do you get destitution and not, and then have this other stuff happen at the same time? How can you have, I don't know, it just seems weird to have people, scraping the weirdest things together and driving around in bizarre, glued together cars. And at the same time, you're also walking around in a full cybernetic body. How does that, right? I don't know how to reconcile the two. And maybe that's me nitpicking.
Unless you show a world of haves and have-nots, and you have some place that has all the resources.
Well, so there's an implication that there's this place, this high level place, which this main character is trying to avoid. Some people talk about it like it's heaven. You go there and you live the nice, clean, simple life. You can pursue things besides surviving. Doesn't that sound great? Right. Well, like I said, these guys, they're all walking around this cult of cyber mutants. They aren't from there.
They already have resources beyond surviving if they can do that.
Well, yeah. This one guy's got this body that looks like it's like a half scorpion kind of thing. I mean, it's pretty tricked out. He's got multi limbs, and I don't know.
So it sounds like the kind of thing that I would feel, well, they're just throwing any old thing they happen to think up science fiction wise in there without caring whether it all makes sense or not.
Right. I mean, it's all cool elements, but should all those elements be in the same book? I don't know.
It can get annoying.
So it gets to the end of it, and lo and behold, she meets up with some people that she used to know. They're part of an army that she hates. They're part of this, but they're like, "Hey, I need your help. You're the only person I can trust." And they want her to like take this little girl. She's like the ultimate weapon, and we don't know why. So here's this cute little girl, and she's like, "I want nothing to do with kids," and that's where the first issue ends with her kind of going, "I don't want to be responsible for a kid or transporting a kid or."
Boy, does that sound familiar.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah.
Was that by any creators you'd heard of before?
Rob Sheridan wrote it, and Barnaby Bagna is the artist on it. No. Yeah. Not familiar with them at all. But it's a Vertigo book, so I got it at 50% off. So that's
right. When somehow it strikes me as the kind of thing of like some bad Hollywood writer has decided he can write comics or something. But who knows?
It could be. Yeah. What else? What else do you want to talk about?
Well, whenever I'm on your channel, I have to mention Savage Dragon.
Of course.
I'm just joking. This was, I don't really have that much new to say about Savage Dragon at this point. It just goes on and on and on. They have the character, the Ant, in here, and I don't know much about her, but the most interesting thing happens in here is Savage Dragon's children are all from different women, and one of the women decides to tell all the children that they're from different women and that their father was banging other people and stuff.
Nice.
So it was an interesting moment to me where some adult suddenly tells totally inappropriate things to small children about their parents. Like talking about threesomes to them or something.
Right.
Which is just an interesting thing.
Will there be consequences for that?
Probably, because there usually are some kind of consequences.
Does he actually get into that level of storytelling where?
Well, the consequences never run as deep as in. It's always at a Eric Larson.
Okay.
It is Eric Larson level of depth, which is not too deep.
Right.
But,
Okay.
but it'll probably come up again in later issues and have some kind of consequences.
Yeah.
Everybody is getting more and more effed up about their sex lives and stuff.
Right.
Whereas 10 issues ago, it seemed like they all just happily had orgies and there was no consequences to it. Now there are consequences.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of clever.
Huh.
And I've had friends over the years whose parents as children told them too much, and they would tell me how screwed up they were by that and stuff.
Right.
So it did kind of connect to the real world to me there for a moment.
I see. Huh. So just to backtrack a second on the higher level comic, Jock Yo is saying that's the same artist from Tom King's Omega Men run. And you read the Omega Men, right?
Oh, I thought that name sounded vaguely familiar. Yeah.
And I haven't read that yet. So
yeah. And he was a pretty good artist in Omega Men, but it was all the 9-panel grid and stuff. I think it was very closely controlled by Tom King, the way it was laid out and all.
Right.
That. So either this writer has given bad layout instructions, or this is what the artist does when the writer is not controlling him that much.
Right. Could be.
Or both.
Yeah.
I guess Sean's mentioning the character of the ant has been around briefly since the 90s. And I can't get a bead on what kind of character the ant is in here. Except, she has the body of a Playboy bunny and wears a skin-tight suit, but it looks like an ant, which is just a weird set of combination of things, but typical for Erik Larsen.
Yeah. That's funny. Quickly talk about Hot Lunch Special.
And that's the final issue, right?
This is the final issue, which I didn't realize it was the final issue.
Did it feel like it was going to just keep going and going?
Well, I thought it had the potential to. That they could have. They ended it.
Mm-hmm.
They ended it in a way they could tell more story if they wanted to or whatever. But it clearly did have a finale. It wasn't like it doesn't feel like it got cut short. It just felt like this issue is very explosive. The two families crash into each other as far as seeking revenge on each other for for the transgressions that have happened in the book. It could have taken a lot longer to get to it, is what I'm saying. There could have been a lot more intrigue and cat and mouse. But I think they clearly understood that they only had X amount of time to probably get that done in. And so they did plot themselves to successfully have it done, in the 5 issues and whatnot. I enjoyed it. I liked it better earlier on because it felt like it could be something long and we could delve into all kinds of stuff. The kind of the setting of it being this kind of, instead of being stereotypical mobsters, it has mob elements to it. But it really is, it's a family that's, since the 70s has been trying to run this, packaging, food product packaging business. Sandwiches is their thing.
In like Wisconsin or Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Like
Minnesota.
I read
Minnesota.
the first issue when it came out.
So it's all kind of in the what is that? Is that what we call the Midwest? So Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Northern Midwest, I suppose.
Right. So it's stuck in Minnesota, but they kind of travel around in that area. And they kind of control the vending machine sandwich market kind of a deal. They've had a long-term deal with these this trucking company that's run by a kind of like an Irish family. That Irish family, because they're going to expand. The sandwich people are going to expand, and they've decided that when they expand outside of this small area, they're going to use somebody else to truck the product out of the area, which the Irish family takes offense to because they've had this 20-year agreement. So it kind of gets mobstery in the stuff that goes on, and it gets out of control. They show up someplace to kind of strong arm some people. You sent the hothead kid to do it. The hothead kid kills somebody that they shouldn't. And then things just kind of, once you killed one family's person, then it kind of goes, bonkers. And it ends very movie-esque ending. Everybody shoots everybody up at the end of it, and a few people survive out the other end of it. I enjoyed it. But the beginning of it felt more like a long-term comic, and the end of it felt more like an action film that had mobsters in it, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I liked it though. But this is the first of the Aftershock stuff. Because I know like our friend Ryan wants to say that this is all run by people who are looking at Hollywood and turning all this stuff into Hollywood stuff at some point. This is the first one I've read that really, by the time I finished it, I went, oh yeah, I mean, I can see this being made into a movie really easy, or a limited series, TV show or whatever, really, really, really easy.
Yeah.
Because it's very conventional, as opposed to a lot of the other Aftershocks comics I read are very unconventional.
Right.
Animosity and Replica and some of that stuff.
Yeah,
is
a lot
way
of
out
them
there,
would be very hard to do as movies.
Yeah. But this
I
one,
haven't perceived Aftershock as one of those IP type of companies, actually.
Right.
I have perceived some others as like
but the person who's behind it, besides Mike Martz, who of course was a longtime Batman editor for DC, he's the main editor of this book. But the guy who's behind the money, his money is Hollywood money. That's my understanding. Right. But that doesn't mean that it's just in vogue right now if you have money to own a comic book company, isn't it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you had money, isn't it just in vogue right now to have your own comic book company?
I think it is. I think it's cool to have your own comic book company.
I would if I had gobs of money. I would. Why not? So, but I think that's just the era of people who now have money have come from this comic book loving era that why not have your own comic book company? But yeah.
Well, yeah, it does seem like, because it's the angle, just a slightly fresh angle on a familiar mobster story.
Right.
It's the perfect kind of TV show or movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've seen lots of it. It just makes sense. It makes sense that would be the case. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you got Stronghold, did you?
Yes, I did.
Now, could this be a TV show? It almost could be. A
Sure.
little bit like that TV show Alias. In a way, it's a secret spy organization that may or may not, may be good or may be evil.
Right.
But this is a little more convoluted than that. It's reason for existence,
right?
Which is that this fellow is some kind of all-powerful chosen one. I forget what they call him, the primary or anyway. Who, if he knew what his power was, could bring about Armageddon.
Right.
And there's some adversary who wants him to be revealed so that Armageddon will be brought out. And then there's this whole secret organization that's half religion, half, Nick Fury, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Who are trying to hide, or who kind of monitor him. It's also like...
Truman Show.
The Truman Show. They're like monitoring his very dull life, and half the people he know are actually agents of Stronghold,
and are maintaining him having this very, very pedestrian life, because they do not want him to activate or potentially grow to his potential or evil or whatever that might be. So they're just trying to maintain him just being nothing.
Until one teenage girl, or young woman, I guess she's not a teenager anymore, but just out of teenagerness, who always kind of had a crush on him or something, decides she is going to break the rules and reveal to him who he is.
Well, because so he's billed as basically being potentially the next Antichrist or Jesus, kind of is what he's built.
He also could be like Clark Kent, who doesn't know he's Superman.
Right. So there's I understand there'd be an infatuation with the guy because he's this thing, and so she's questioning, right, like lots of young people do. She's been introduced to this religion because her father and the way they talk about it as kind of this quasi cult religion, super agency kind of thing.
It's also like the Amish, where everybody in their late teens takes a year off to go be wild in the normal life and then decide whether they want to return.
Right. And if they don't want to return, they get mind wiped.
Right.
They've been given this thing that after, when they hit their 20th day or whatever, or their 20th year, they're mind wiped if they don't come back and get the antidote to keep their thoughts. So they would just go on and lose all their whatever specialties powers they have or whatever. They would just walk away and be nothing. Right. So, but she's like lots of young people. You've spent your life being told there's this religion and it's whatever. And if you were suddenly given the opportunity to have a God figure in front of you, wouldn't you push it to see if it's real or not? And that's kind of what she does.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, it's like it's happening. And so the end of it's kind of her writing a note to her father basically going, oh, damn, I think I've screwed up. I think I've started Armageddon.
I now have caused the apocalypse.
Right.
Although I obviously question if just because she has now moved something into motion, is it what Stronghold believes?
Sure.
The oddest thing about this is, though, the people of Stronghold have some kind of superpower with these
the
icy-looking extensions of their arms that they can shoot out, or they can shoot. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, I don't know, some kind of diamond material or something.
Some sort of crystalline of some sort. Yeah.
And they can, and it seems like
forms their hands. Yeah.
It seems like their guy that they're following around also has that power amongst his other powers.
Well, he seems to have all kinds of powers. He doesn't have to breathe. He doesn't. I mean, because they see he's on a bridge and a car goes over this bridge at the beginning of the issue, and he, being a good Samaritan, jumps off the bridge because this kid falls in the car and is going to drown.
Rescues the kid from the car underwater, and then he just walks through the river for miles because he suddenly discovers he doesn't need to breathe underwater.
Right. It doesn't.
But he also, at another point, he seems. I mean, I interpreted it as he shoots out this crystalline stuff from his arm and cuts off someone else's arm.
Right.
But so, I mean, that part of it kind of irked me. If you've got this one superhuman creature that they're trying to make sure he doesn't know about his superhuman powers, but they have superhuman powers too. I don't know. I'm sure it'll be explained and everything as we go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For a first issue, there are elements of it that you kind of go, what? Right. But I kind of like the idea of it, and I'm curious to see, and then seeing the cover to issue 2 really has my mind going. It's like, okay, what is that? What's that about? With that, this whole what looks like an alien or something holding a baby. It's like, what?
Holding a baby, yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, how does that fit into the story?
It has a lot of fun elements. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting, or I'm hoping from this first issue. Because I've learned to sometimes my hopes go awry, and after 3 issues, I think, oh, this didn't work.
Sure.
But judging from this first issue, I feel like we could have a real interesting unfolding of mystery within mystery within mystery. Mm-hmm.
If it's given the opportunity to do it, that's the other thing. How many issues does it survive if it doesn't?
That's a good point.
And I really enjoyed it. Anybody who listens to me talk, I'm a huge Ryan Kelly fan. I really love his art. He fills the page so much better than most other artists do. He does not rely on a colorist to do his, to make blobs in the background to try and fill in what's going on.
Right.
He fills in what is going on. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's good, solid.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the better Vertigo kind of art that we used to get. Mm-hmm. It's not flashy. It's working on telling the story, and it doesn't skimp in any way.
Right, but like I said, it fills in. I mean, it fills in details way clear to the back of a panel. It fills in, what is going on, kind of a thing. I mean, there's he has his style. I mean, if you're familiar with him at all, this book is easy. You can pick it up without knowing who's in it. Open it up and look at the features of the people in it, and go, it's Ryan Kelly, because they do look the same. But for me, that's not a criticism. That's his style. That's how he does stuff. But I don't know. I really like it a lot.
Yeah. I love this panel here, for instance, where it just gives so much detail of the room that they're walking through.
Yeah. And you just don't see that. I mean, largely you do not see that. People don't have, I don't know if they don't have time, or they don't, whatever the case may be, but he fills the work in. I mean, it's just,
and this panel of the room, which is the living room, I think, where the father and daughter live, it tells us a lot about the style of their life and what kind of people they are and everything. So it's not just generic furniture and, it kind of gives you a sense that they live a life of kind of artistic luxury in a way. So there's a lot of good sides to their life, even though they're kind of trapped within the Stronghold world.
Right.
So it's kind of a seductive life that they have.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm curious to see now that they've exposed the guy to this stuff that,
right.
What is that? What does that entail?
I really do hope this one lasts and gets to tell its full story.
Right.
I heard Phil Hester on a podcast interview, and I think he said he got to do 1 or 2 issues of this with another artist at a comic book company that collapsed a long time ago. And so now he's redoing it from the start with Ryan Kelly in a slightly different way. And the original artist gets a little bit of a cut. So the copyrights say it's copyright Phil Hester, Ryan Kelly, Tyler Walpole, and Aftershock.
Okay, so I wondered about that because it says created by, and it has his name in that, Tyler Walpole, and then he does nothing. I mean,
Tyler Walpole was the previous artist who did a few issues before it. I can't remember what comic company they said it was. One that was around in the earlier 2000s.
Well, I would say good for Hester for giving the guy credit.
Trying to cut anyone out.
In an era of where we keep hearing about still people getting screwed out of if nothing else, recognition, if not money too. Good for Hester.
Yeah.
That he's a creator, not stiffing somebody in some sense.
Right.
So yeah.
What other indies are on your pile?
Let's see what else here. East of West, issue number 41. So the main battle's about ready to happen. It's getting very, very close. We don't see any of Babylon in this issue. We don't see death in this issue at all. We're back to the Prince of New Orleans escaping home and hooking back up with his brother, who of course is now the head of the what's the nation called? The one nation, the Native Americans that are like have the highest technology and the most power and whatnot. Their forces are amassing. Mao's forces are amassing, and Archibald from the South, the Confederates, what's up to the Confederates? He has got some sneaky plan to like try and backstab all of them with his army that's going in there. There's a really telling element in this. His like grandniece or whatever, the last of his blood has been mortally wounded. She is lying on a bed. She could die. She may not make it through the night. And he's basically saying this prayer out loud. God, I don't normally pray to you, but boy, this is a bad time. I don't know if if she's gonna make it through the night, and I've got so much responsibility right now that under normal circumstances I would stay here with her to see if she makes it or not, but I can't. I gotta go. So I just ask of you if it's a choice between winning this battle and her surviving, please let me win this battle. And he walks off, and after he walks off, she opens up one eye. It's like what? So the people who are with him may not be with him so much. I mean, I'm curious to see if that comes back to bite him, that he's kind of openly played his cards, that she is not as important, because she's kind of been his extra right-hand man. And then maybe she's not as wounded as what she seems to be, and that could end up getting him. But I really love the book.
Yeah.
Martin's colors through this thing on top of Dragata's art is always really, really good. This is a book that is I love these deep colors. It's a book that you're in it for the long haul. There's quick little payoffs occasionally. I love this flashback. There's this flashback scene of about 4 pages. The colors are just a little flatter, as it's kind of like a seeing the past kind of a thing, which I really liked in comparison to here's the same characters in the modern time, right? So it's just brighter and crisper as opposed to the flashback. I don't know. Like I said, I just really, really enjoy this book. I like reading in singles. It is going to be so good to read. This is one of those books that once it's all done, I'm going to pick whatever the biggest deluxe copy of it is that comes out, and I'm buying that.
Yeah, I've been buying the deluxes. I'm a little worried that I'll hear from you and other people reading it that it belly flopped in the last issue.
Well, so far that has not been the case. So far, it is just continues. You get these issues of building something, and then all of a sudden, there'll be an explosion of something. You're just like, oh wow, and then they'll build something else, and then there'll be this other, shoe will drop, and there's a lot of shoes in this book to drop. So, it's no, I just continue to really like it. Yeah, it's excellent. Every issue has meaning now. Whereas for me, when I first started, this is 41 issues in, which to me is amazing for a for independent comic. I'll be the first to admit, like the first 5 to 9 issues, I was kind of going, okay, not being really familiar with Hickman's writing yet, going, okay, there's needs to be a payoff in here somewhere. And you get about issue 9, then it just starts, every couple issues, there's another piece of a payoff of story, and that just continues to build along as it goes from now on.
Right. So, it's great that they managed to keep it going for the full thing.
Yeah.
I noticed that the next little run of Black Monday Murders by Hickman is now billed as the final arc.
Right.
And that made me kind of sad because it felt like a very open universe.
Yes.
And I bought the first 2 trades and loved it. Mm-hmm. So I've now signed up to get that last arc in floppies in hopes that somehow my little contribution will grease the wheels, and they'll end up saying, okay, no, it's not the last arc.
Right. Yeah, that's what I saw too. Each issue is going to be oversized. They said they're
so it's going to be a large last arc, I guess.
Right. I love, because you're right, that they've done such a good job in that small amount of time of building this world with so much interest and potential.
Right. So you really want to explore it more.
Right. Let's dive into it for a long time. But like anything else, obviously either they don't have that much story to tell, or the sales aren't there to maintain that. So,
and I wonder if it was that artist may put a lot of work into it, and maybe I can see artists might get to a point of saying, I want to work on some other book.
Right.
I don't want to spend the next 10 years just doing Black Monday Murders or something.
Well, sure. I get it's a job, and to some degree they're working as a job as opposed to a making art.
Right.
But as an artist, because you are putting that kind of energy into it, I would think it would be fatiguing.
Yeah,
potentially just to be doing, to be handling the same characters all the time. Unless you're really invested yourself in those characters. I'm assuming that's why we had this break in Saga. Is that?
Yes, I assume it's
they've spent 3+ years of their lives just doing that.
I think it's been like 6 years almost.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, whatever it is, just that much of your life.
She was a pretty young artist when she started. So it's like she could look at Saga and say, am I going to spend my whole life doing Saga? Because she probably could make a good living doing Saga for 20 years or something.
Right. Or if this is all I'm doing, is this all I'm going to ever be doing?
Right.
Am I going to be outside of that? Am I ever going to be anything else? I haven't seen her do anything though. It's not like she's even doing cover art.
That's true. For a while she was. Made enough money, said, hey, why don't I take a year's vacation? But I doubt that's what it really is. Most artists have that urge to keep
going. Yeah, she's creating something, it's just not comics.
Yeah, that could be too. Or maybe we'll see something come out that she spent a lot of time working on. Saga just stopped a little while ago.
Yeah. It feels like forever ago, I guess.
I think it was only 2 months ago, or maybe
is it only that?
Maybe 3 months ago.
Okay, what else you want to talk about?
There's some ones that I don't have a lot to say about. We've got Exo Man of War, which I've really been enjoying Matt Kint's run on it. But I'm sort of getting to the point where I'm thinking maybe Matt Kint's run should be done. Maybe he needs a break.
Yeah.
It's probably one of Valiant's best-selling books because they're clearly, they give it a lot of freedom. It doesn't seem to spend a lot of time on the continuity of the greater Valiant universe.
Right.
But he's kind of repeating a plot now where Man of War is fighting this group of mercenaries who he's fought before. So I just felt a little It's halfway. They just do 3-issue arcs, and so this is the second issue. I'll probably take a look at what the next arc is and see if it gets interesting again.
Right. I always think it looks cool because it always like is painted, kind of a looking,
Yeah. Well,
visually.
by just doing 3-issue arcs, they get an artist on who does a real kick butt job, and then takes a break, and some other artist takes over.
Right.
So almost every arc has had fabulous artwork.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool. Still reading Evolution. We're issue 14. We're rolling into the last arc. Let's see, three different groups of stories that are going on in the book they're all like this close to each other. They last issue, they were literally panels away from each other. It's like, one group of people is driving down one side of the highway and they pass a crash, and the crash has to do with one of the other groups of these 3 stories that have been kind of traveling along with this whole humankind evolving into whatever this is, whether this is a good thing, a bad thing, clearly not human just by looking at that. I mean, that one time was a human being. The last page of this issue, 2 of the groups meet. The nun runs into the girlfriend of the woman who owns the film store that kind of has been selling weird stuff to this guy who gets them exposed to the evolution stuff, supposedly. They meet by the last page. So that's the first actual contact between these 3 separate stories that are going on. The owner of the film store, the nun, and the scientist. Meanwhile, the scientist is just on crazy pants journey. He's trying to convince he's now trying to indoctrinate his son into what he's doing because he doesn't think he's going to survive it, but maybe his son might survive it. But I mean, he's chopping people up. He's leaving bodies all over the place for the CDC to find, to try and convince them that they need to be doing something. Is there a way to fight this? Kind of a thing. With his part of the story, you're just never sure. I mean, it's happening. I think we've confirmed it's actually happening. People are mutating. But how much of it is, I mean, because he's going after people that don't look like there's anything wrong with them yet. So I don't know how many people he has butchered or chopped up that have not mutated or weren't going to mutate, maybe. He's kind of in the opinion now that we're all exposed. It's just a matter of time before we all turn unless somebody does something. So, his part of the story just becomes more and more manic, and it feels even more so that way, I guess maybe because I have kids. He's got this 7 or 8 year old with him that he's dragging through all this, that while the kid's facing one direction, he's, doing something horrible in the next train car kind of thing. They're hanging out and they're going to Universal City and doing all this kind of whatever you want to do, son. So it just has that kind of, these are our last days before we have a suicide pact kind of a feel to it. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's all cool. I mean, I like it. It's interesting. Curious to see how these last 4 or 5 issues go. To where does this thing end?
Announced ending to it.
Yeah, there is an ending, and I just don't know. I mean, how is it going to end? I have no idea. I mean, to me, this feels like it's getting one of those endings where something slithers away on the last panel, and that's it. All of humanity's gone, and we're some weird gibbering whatever. I don't know. Unless we're suddenly find out that this is a man-made driven thing, and somebody can pull the plug on it. It just seems, beyond beyond fixing. Yeah, it's not like
anyone's controlled or
yeah.
It's kind of tricky to write a comic book about that. Heading towards just this is how evolution is going to happen, and the human race is going to cease to exist, and something else is taking its place.
Right. And one of the things I still continue to really like about it is it's written by 3 writers. One artist across the whole thing, written by 3 writers who write their own pieces. I mean, clearly they're paying attention to what each other are doing. But somehow it still feels like it's still very cohesive.
Yeah.
I'm curious when we get down to this. I'm assuming we're going to get deep enough into it where all these people are going to be meshing with each other. They're all going to be on the same pages together at the same time. How do those 3 writers come together to write that? But so what do they trip over each other when they get to the ending of it? I have no idea, but it has worked up to this point.
I'm bummed that I didn't pick it up when it started, but as you were holding it up, I realized why. Because I hate that logo.
Yeah.
It looks like the logo of a bad comic book to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got that kind of like in motion kind of a,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a logo that I would have drawn when I was 11 or something. Yeah.
It just, it looks like from one of those companies that doesn't really know how to do comic books right or something.
Right.
So I think I must have seen it early on and gone, I just saw the logo without subconsciously just went, nah.
Sure. No.
Because someone earlier in the comments said how much they loved the logo to High Level. And I thought, yeah, they're right. That High Level logo is really cool and makes me want to read it. Even though when you described High Level, then I didn't want to read it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is like the first time I ever thought about how a logo subconsciously affects my desire to read things.
Yeah. I have a few more books. Let's see. American Carnage, another Vertical book. This is issue 4? I'm really liking this book. Things are getting way out of control.
Is this the one about the Klan or something?
So it's got a there is a politician who has potentially, well, he definitely does, 100% does. The public thinks that maybe he might have some ties to white nationalists and that sort of thing. But he writes books and he courts the black voters and that sort of stuff. But he's really trying to just get himself in as high a political power as he can, and then do his evil stuff, basically. So part of the story is a clash between him and kind of the lowbred racists that he kind of uses and has to deal with. Like, he uses them when he needs something dirty done, but then wants to keep them at a distance otherwise. And they're smart enough to realize that that's what's happening to him, and they're a bit pissed off about it, because one of the lowly guys gets killed. They're beating up an African American guy, and it goes wrong, and he gets shot in the leg, and a cleaner shows up and actually executes the guy and leaves his body laying next to this dead African American, and the Nazis are all pissed off about that, and so there's chaos. There's a powder keg being held at bay, as far as that goes, and we've got our main character who is an ex-FBI guy. He is mixed race, but passes for white. Right, but passes for white. He is a private detective now. He's been hired by an FBI woman whose partner was killed by these white nationalists. She's got a personal vendetta against them. She can't do the work herself, so she's put this guy on the inside. So he is faking that he's an ex-druggie who's trying to clean himself up and then slowly working his way into being in the inner circle, so he can get enough dirt on this politician guy to bring him down, because they feel like he's the real power. He may not be the person pulling the trigger, but he's the person who's manipulating the people to pull the triggers and whatnot.
Right.
So all convoluted, when you're doing that deep undercover stuff, you get yourself doing stuff that you don't want to be doing, and in situations you don't want to be in. So things have gotten probably. The one thing I'll say, the Leonardo Fernandez art with colors by Dean White, it looks like a less stylized Ed Rizzo, the guy who does all the artwork with Rizzo, the guy, who does like 100 bullets and stuff. So it looks like that. It just doesn't look it's not quite as styled and sharp. But between the heavy inking and the color, right? It just has that kind of. It has the look of that. It just isn't. It's like it almost to me feels like I'm reading something that maybe he would have done at the beginning of his career when he was starting to develop this style, but hadn't quite mastered it yet. But I like it, and I'm liking the story more and more as it goes along. I mean, some of it's pretty obvious. It's like, okay, yeah, they're playing these people like the stereotypical white nationalist or whatever. But it's intriguing because there's this daughter that he's trying to get into the white nationalists through the daughter of this politician guy. She's pretty savvy. She doesn't really trust this guy. It's like he fits the bill too perfectly. There must be something wrong with him, whatnot. But her daughter is deaf, and he happens to be able to speak sign language. So he gets along with the daughter really well, and the daughter really likes him. So she's kind of the daughter of the politician's kind of like is pulled back and forth as to whether or not she should like this guy or should be suspicious because he's too perfect for what they need, kind of a thing. So it's interesting. I mean, I do like the kind of the undercover person that's probably in over their head, and how do they survive that to get what they want out of it. So I have enjoyed it.
Sounds very nerve-wracking.
I mean, it is, and it's and because it deals with race and all that kind of stuff, there are moments that are extremely uncomfortable and painful and whatnot, which of course is Brian Hill's point. I mean, that's right. That's why he's writing the story. I think partially to be entertaining, but also to drive that conversation around some of that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like one I should read, but I may procrastinate on it for quite a while.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's.
I assume it'll be a limited series and come out in trades, one or two trades, probably.
Yeah, I would guess so too. It's one of those books that's good, but depressing too at the same time. Yeah. So it's not like have to be in the mood for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's touching a nerve very successfully.
Yeah. Any other books you want to talk about?
Well, opposite end of the spectrum. Lightstep, which I've continued to pick up, even though at first after I realized it was connected to a video game, I thought I wouldn't. But we talk about things you can only do in a comic. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels that way. Every issue it's continuous with the characters and there's a connection between issues, but every issue goes off in its own direction and does its own thing for an issue, and then the next issue is a different thing. So in this issue, suddenly a whole bunch of time has passed, which really surprised me because it's always I'm trying to think of how to describe this thing, but basically because of time dilation and various outer space things, the person who they pulled kind of a con on someone where they had to give someone up as a prisoner. So the person who was taken as a prisoner was promised, I'll rescue you the next day. But because of time dilation, she spent 20 years as a prisoner and he came to rescue her the next day. And now she wants to kill him.
Sure.
And she's in that meanwhile, she kind of became a religious-based assassin after escaping her incarceration on her own. And it's just full of fun, wild, wacky science fiction stuff. And the art's quite good. Occasionally the art can be confusing here and there. That's probably my only complaint about this. But you just have to be ready it's not a standard story. Each issue, you don't know what direction it's going to take. And you have to be willing to sort of plunge into the new sci-fi situation. So I'm actually going to be sad. Next issue is the last in the miniseries. I suppose if it sells, there might be more, but I'm assuming not many people have been getting it. Mm-hmm. And it does one of my favorite things, which is have a full back and front cover image.
Yeah. Nice.
And I think this will be good in trade, but I think because of the art, it's not likely to be in a trade that has great gutter things. So I would recommend to people to try to dig up the individual issues if they're interested in a wild science fiction ride. I'm sure it's in dollar boxes somewhere already.
Right. Well, that's cool. I mean, that it's ended up being interesting and whatnot. I'm always so leery of things based on video games, things based on movies.
They usually don't try very hard.
It's They don't move far from anything, and
it's just an ancillary product.
Right.
And I don't have time in life to play video games. I have no idea from this comic book what this video game is like.
Yeah.
So maybe someday I'll see someone on YouTube explaining Lightstep, the video game.
There you go.
I don't even know if it's come out yet.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
So that's a cool one.
Yeah, cool. Monstrous continues to be good. It continues to move at the pace that it typically moves at. So,
what issue are they on now?
This is issue 20.
Oh, 20. Okay.
So it continues to be gorgeous looking art. And sometimes the story radically moves and lots of times it doesn't. This is one of those books that, I mean, to me, really you should be reading in trade. That would be that would be how to read it, not to discourage people from buying it in single issues. But I just this is a book. It's a challenge for me to read it and then wait for the next issue and remember everybody's names and what player they are in the in the grand scheme of what's going on. Are they part of the dusk? Are they part of the light? Are they part of the arcanes? Are they part of the humans? Exactly what all the players are in it as far as that goes. But I do love the characters in it. Kippa, this Fox, person character is great in it. And some of the other main characters in it are just really cool. I really like, I really do like them. But it's, like I said, it is a crawl lots of times as far as if you're wanting something to be fast paced and moving along. At no point would I ever call this that.
Right.
There are fight scenes. The fight scenes are almost instantly over. The fight scenes are probably more realistic in the sense that somebody pulls out a weapon and somebody just dies and they're cut in half or whatever. There's no prolonged pages of people engaging in some sort of something. It's usually quick and deadly, and then they move on to whatever the next is going to go on. So you don't get those kinds of things. That large action pack as far as that kind of thing goes. So. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the cover art, that's what the art looks like in the interior all the way through it. It's rich. And
so that I got the first few issues and the art was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the quality has stayed.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I mean, yeah, what was in the issue 1 is 100% what's in all of the other issues. It is, well, here's a little bit of action. As they're fighting a spirit thing, but yeah, the art is just as good now as it was in those first issues. And every issue has a fun little thing after you're done reading the book. The cats are sitting around and they're being told some either piece of poetry or some piece of history that is told in kind of a fun classroom setting kind of a way, but is relevant to the greater world that all of this is going on in. So that's always kind of cool too. And I found out yesterday that yesterday, a couple days ago, I was talking with somebody else who reads it in trade, and all of that little back matter actually is in the trade. So as you're reading the trade, when an issue ends, when a chapter ends, you get a little bit of that back material. Right. Because I was just curious, because I wondered if they didn't put that in it, you're missing this kind of thing that helps fill out this larger world. That'd be kind of a bummer. I would have thought so. The
downside, I mean, with art that good and expansive, you miss something in the trade in terms of the laying flat.
Well, that's true. That is true.
But it does seem to me, I think I felt that's why it's another one that I kind of said, oh, I'll wait for the trade.
Yeah.
And so far, I haven't got the trades because I have too much to read.
Right. The pacing is just very lumbering. It's just it seems to have no concern with what it's going to take to get from here to wherever there is. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying it is. Right. I know for a lot of people, it's a challenge to read, 20 some pages, wait 30 days and read 20 some pages and keep that all in your head. And then with their breaks, because they do have big breaks when they have their breaks, all that kind of stuff. So
I suspect it is one that sells well in trades. So I think it's probably making them money. And
I think that's how it's really is being sold in that fashion and whatnot. It's being sold in bookstores. Yeah. And this last year, if awards mean anything to you, it cleaned up on awards. Everything it was nominated for, it got like three or four Eisners, I think. So,
and that may be something that has more power to trade readers.
Right.
Like book readers tend to follow who wins awards.
Right. The book sales and whatnot. If you're just looking at, what did comics consider great this year? So you go to the awards things as an assumption as to what that means. That's what's great. So, yeah, for sure.
Okay, I have another Valiant one called Incursion. It's another Valiant mini series.
Okay,
and it's yet again about. I've read before ones about the I think they call her the Geomancer or the Geo something, the reincarnation of the person who is the manifestation of the planet Earth. And she's always protected by the Eternal Warrior. And here we have Earth about to be invaded by this kind of cosmic necromancer, a woman who who destroys all life on a planet to gain magic powers and extend her lifetime. So she's almost like like Galactus. She's feeding from planet to planet, but magic based. And she's not a giant creature. She's just a grotesque alien witch-like creature. And they've established, I've seen in some other Valiant comics, that there's this dimension of the dead. And so as she travels from planet to planet, she goes through the dimension of the dead and comes back out on the next planet through that dimension. So I thought that was an interesting twist. But there she is. So it's one of those books that's interesting but not emotionally involving, I would say. It has some interesting intellectual stuff. It's written by Andy Diggle, who I've kind of thought of as a writer who's perhaps past his prime and just hacks it out, but I'm not feeling that with this, so I'm kind of glad I put this on my list. Valiant is weird. It just does a lot of miniseries, and it's hard to know which ones are going to be worth reading and which aren't.
Right. I think there's some books coming up that I'm going to get of theirs because I want to try stuff out and whatnot. I just don't want to get. I feel like X-O Man of War feels like it's kind of entrenched in. They seem to have a lot of events that in their stuff too, and I'm just kind of.
They do, but the Matt Kindt X-O Man of War avoids the events.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay.
So you could get that in trade. I think they just came out with a deluxe edition, in fact.
Oh, okay.
So that might be worth trying if you can get a nice steep discount on that, which I'm sure you can.
Right. Because I'm wanting to check some of it out. I just don't want to get into something that's tied into everything. So I've been kind of. I know.
I'm trying to dodge that stuff too.
Right. So I've been kind of hanging around the fringes of Valiant. As far as the books that come out by it and whatnot. So
yeah, it's a bit intimidating.
Yeah. I'll briefly talk about Bitterroot. I'm enjoying this book quite a bit. This is issue number 4. I love the art. The art style is just great in it. It's it's 20s, 30s monster hunting, sort of a thing. It has some kind of ridiculous stuff in it. Sanford Green. I like his style. I like the way he does stuff. It's big and dynamic and brash, and they keep the color scheme fairly simple in this.
Yeah. I was just gonna say it looks like my kind of coloring.
Yeah, monsters are racing across Harlem right now, and they're trying to fight these monsters. And some of them are turning into monsters. This family that goes about fighting the monsters the most. They've got kind of a crazy uncle, and he's kind of come on the scene. He's got these little gibbery dog things that are with him, so they're just kind of fun, fun characters. But the energy of the art, of cars racing,
that really pops.
Like I said, it's just really dynamic and whatnot. So it's just, like I said, it's fun. It's the occult kind of stuff. I like the occult, the occult kind of thing. And it's this family versus this incursion of monsters. We don't know why there's an incursion of monsters yet. It has some connection to the family, but we don't know exactly what is going on. But yeah, it just has this. I don't know. It has some. It has some really cool and crazy, elements to it. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. Now that I see those interiors, I really want to read it.
Yeah. It's a cool book. I mean, it's not super deep, but it's just kind of a lot of fun monster bashing, and like I said, the art just is really, really dynamic and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah. David Walker seems like a good writer. I feel like I should be trying to follow him more.
Yeah.
I just read the first issue of Naomi with my daughter, which is co-written by him, and I was actually enjoyed it a lot reading it with her. It seems like a good kids book.
Good.
But sort of a kid's book that I read this week, and I actually shotgunned 3 issues in a row of Midwest by Scotty Young and Jorge Corona. And I think the colorist Jean-Francis Below also deserves a big mention. So I just love the artwork in here. I love it colored. Like it definitely feels like one of those books where it's 50% the colorist.
Does all the heavy lifting, yeah.
You know, the art tells the story well and everything, but it's not in a style that would grab me, except the color grabs me. So, and it's kind of like a phantasmagoria of, I don't know, the Midwest meets some cross between Oz and Ray Bradbury stories and things that. But what it lacks is, the boy character, I don't root for him particularly. He's sometimes either passive or a bit of a brat or a bit annoying. I mean, I should feel bad for him. His father was a monster and his mother's missing, and now he's kind of on the run, and he may be turning into a monster, and he's trying to find out what. But yeah, so it's full of cool stuff and cool art, but not a character that I'm really getting into. But I'm sticking with it because of those other elements. Really enjoying the art.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, I loved this cover of the previous issue for some reason. That's a father. So his father and now probably him turn into giant angry storms that rip up towns, which is kind of a Midwestern thing, you know.
Sure.
Tornadoes.
Definitely.
And there's all these odd characters, and to a certain extent, it's like, well, why is there a talking fox? There's no explanation for that, which is kind of like the Oz side of things. And
right.
In the most recent issue, we get a wisecracking talking robot who is made by this girl who works at the carnival.
Nice.
And there's no particular reason for these things existing; they just do.
Sure.
You going to say goodnight?
Yes.
Here's the famous quacking duck. About to head off to bed to read books in bed, I think. Are you reading a Supergirl novel right now, right?
Yeah.
Her and her mom are reading a Supergirl novel together based on the TV show.
Nice.
Would you say it's a good one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Not as good as the DC Superhero Girls books?
Yeah, probably not as good. The only thing is that it's kind of like creepy. Sometimes. Like at times. Like but it's also kind of good.
Is there a lot of romance in it?
Really, surprisingly, not that much.
Oh, okay. Because we have not liked the romance in the Supergirl TV shows that we've seen.
Right.
It's a little too much of
also, by the way, we are not sponsored by Oral-B Flosser.
Oh, there's the flosser.
Good deal.
Okay, well, thanks for coming to visit me. Happy flossing. I'll see you in the morning.
Mom?
So, where were we? Oh, I just finished about Midwest. So, you got anything else on that pile there?
We
must be.
Let's see. Yep, get to the bottom here. So, Seven to Eternity. This is issue number 13. I'm not 100% sure what's going on in the book anymore, to be quite honest. As far as, and it's largely I just need to go back and read some issues. There was a big gap. There was a longer than the normal breaks that Image Books takes. And so it's taking me a little bit to grasp what all happened. Some of the people who were enemies going into this book now seem to not be, and I'm not sure exactly why. 100% why that is. I missed some key point, or I can't remember what that key point is. So I need to go back and check that out. And I don't think that's a fault of the comic as much as it is just my faulty memory. There is in these books, Remender has started doing this. He has started dropping a Marvel first, and I refuse to read it. So probably this would tell me exactly the information that I need. But I'm so irritated with that thing because I get our story so far, and in this book I also get the journal of one of our main characters, which is kind of his own personal insight as to what the hell is going on right now. So I read the journal. I don't read the story so far, kind of a thing. So, like I said, if I wasn't so stubborn about that opening page, I would probably know what's going on better. The art is amazing. Jerome Opeña with Matt Hollingsworth coloring is just, I mean, to some degree,
literally drooling when you held it up.
Literally, I'm not even concerned what the story is, to be honest. I mean, I can get enough of what's going on, even if I can't remember those key points.
Right.
And the art is just amazing. So, you know, one of our main characters, we get to see what happened to him. There was this place called The Well, which is supposed to be this evil place you go into, and man, you're never going to come out of it right. He somehow survives it. We get to see what happened to him while he's in the well. When he's in the well, he meets this giant Titan-sized person that talks him through some stuff. So cool. Loads him up with he has a gun, which I can't remember what the gun is called, but the ammo that he shoots are called nails, and the nails are the souls. He actually packs around these little crystal amulets or sort of a thing that has a soul in it. And the type of monk that he is, the power that he uses, he actually harnesses these souls and shoots them at people. Wow. or whatever he's trying to destroy. Well, his gun gets loaded up with basically an endless supply of nails, which is like a gun that that has eternal ammo, which if you're a shooter, that and you're going to be in a fight, that's awesome. Right. And so he shows back up in this, they're trapped on this floating planet. The youngest son of our bad guy has been cursed. He cannot touch the ground. If he touches the ground, or any of the people from his cities touch the ground, they supposedly instantly die. That's the rumor. So they fly all the time. They're in these cities, these floating cities, literally have these giant air balloons that hold up giant platforms that they literally have these cities built up floating around. Our main bad guy and our main hero have been captured. They're kind of buddies right now in the sense that they're keeping each other alive, because if the bad guy dies, everybody that the bad guy controls gets spun into a mindless oblivion and dies themselves. So like, I don't know, 75% of the world will just cease to exist if this guy just dies. Our hero is found out. So he's not willing to just shoot him. He's got to figure out how to fix this whole thing. So this youngest son wants his dad dead because his dad is the one that's cursed him to not be able to walk the earth anymore. So this big fight is ensuing. And now that he's got this gun with these, this endless supply of nails, he decides, instead of trying to fight the people, he just releases a barrage, and it actually blows up all the balloons, and all the cities come crashing down and whatnot. I don't know. It's just, it's cool. Like I said, the art, the coloring is just next level awesome. It is just gorgeous, and I have no idea what's going to happen next. The cities go. I mean, here's the cities going down. They go down this giant, Hindenburg-like scene as all these hot.
Who's the colorist on that?
Matt Hollingsworth.
Oh, okay, that's top-notch colorist. No wonder.
Yeah. So it's just, like I said, it's incredible. The art is, and who knows what's going to happen next as he's trying to race to save this guy that he hates. You cursed his entire family, but he has to save him for now to get him to some place so they can kind of like turn off this power he has to control everybody. And, see what happens. But I mean, even the black and white stuff, though, even if you took the color out,
no, I'm not criticizing.
It's just, the art is awesome. And then, like I said, the colors just make it,
In fact, somewhere I have the artist's proof of the first issue. Which
really? Oh, wow.
For a while, Image were selling these oversized first issue things.
Sure.
And I bought the first issue and decided I wasn't in the mood to read it, but I still wanted the artist's
right.
thing. But I definitely have to get that someday in the deluxe edition.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a decent fantasy book. And we've talked before, fantasy is not the top of my list of things. There's a few that I do read, but I don't read lots of them. This is all about the art. I mean, the story itself is fine. It's interesting and intriguing and whatnot, but oh man, the eye candy of it is worth the price as far as I'm concerned. So yeah,
that looks like top of the heap fantasy art for sure.
Yeah. And I only have only one book left, and that's the book that you've not finished.
Right. Lucifer 5, which is the only book I have left also.
Yeah.
So I've read halfway through, and it seems like this is the issue where they suddenly explain a lot.
Yes.
So if we could talk about it without spoiling too much of what they explain. My first reaction was, well, maybe he should have spaced some of this elements, like this stuff about the character Sniveling Jack? No. Sneaky Jack.
Is it Sneaky Jack? Yeah. I could have Sneaky or Slimy or
something like
something with an S.
He calls himself Happy Jack, but other people call him. Anyway, I guess they do kind of introduce him maybe in issue 4 a little bit. And then, so I think if he had been introduced earlier in the story, that would have been better. But otherwise, what I've read so far seems like a brilliantly complex, crazy explanation for things that have been going on. So did you enjoy it all the way through to the end?
Yes. Yes. I'm very excited because they kind of tell you, because we don't really know where Lucifer's at, right?
Right. But now we do, even as far as I've read, I think.
Right. Roughly. Well, it really goes into where he's at, what has happened, how long has it been going on, is all of that is kind of intriguing that you get in it. I'm deeply want to know what happens in the next issue. This is a book that when I get done with it, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I want the next now. I don't want to chew this over my head. I mean, I do. But I just want the next. I want the next. For me, it's that good. I just want the next.
There is, for the first time, a character that maybe they don't explain so much, who is from previous Lucifer stories, and I can't remember her name. With the
Mazakai.
Right, and she speaks oddly.
Well, that's because she's got a metal. She has a metal mask over half of her face, and I think it holds her face in place.
Yeah, she was a great character in the original Lucifer series. So I thought that was interesting that now it ties in a little more to the.
She showed up in another issue of this too. She was kind of like in the back.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, she was kind of like in the background as once they started showing the halfway house as being the demon house, then we see her. We see her there with the son, hanging out, trying to figure out how they're gonna get through that. We find out, we get some. Well, I can't. Never mind. You don't have that far yet into it.
So I could take my headphones off.
No.
Normally, I'll just fast forward through the video, but I'm right here. So
right. No. It's just we get more Lucifer, and we get just not the mad poet, as I like to call him in this, the kind of lost soul, this long-haired, Jesus-looking kind of a guy that's or rather somebody who looks like they stepped off of a Jethro Tull album, kind of.
Who has a certain level of innocence to them, which the other Lucifers that we've seen have no innocence. Well,
we get the other Lucifer in this too. We get to see the either the foreshadowing or the what once was. We get some more of that in this issue, which I really enjoyed too. I continue to absolutely love the art, and the coloring. This color palette, I don't know. I really like the kind of sickly green, the kind of I don't know, off pea green, the oranges, the kind of ruddy red around their eyes and nose.
Yeah, the colors are really great. By David McCaig, who is a well-known colorist. I think other colorists refer to him a lot.
Yeah, and I really like it. We get to see some more of who this Jack character is, what's he really about. We get that in it.
To the point that I read the whole story of how he fooled the devil, but then it ended up being bad for him.
Well, because he never
rejected by heaven and having nowhere to go.
Because the reality is, do you ever get one over?
Right. The devil? You never win with the devil.
When you think you've won, you haven't, and that's really kind of where he's at. It's like, and instead of, because he tricks the devil and thinks he can get into heaven, and that doesn't work either because there's no place for him there. So he's basically left to wander oblivion where there's literally nothing.
Right. And he starts wishing for hell. I mean, even hell would be better than what he's in.
Right. So, I mean, there's for me, there's just a lot of really cool elements. I'm excited to see what's like I said, what the next issue is going to bring is, really interesting.
This still feels like one of the best comics I'm reading.
Yeah, 100% for me. And you got this, we still, what's going to go on with the detective? I mean, his stuff is so, what little bit that he's in this is so maddening. He's in the real world and and losing it. And why is he losing it? They explain the whole cancer thing in this issue. I don't know that you've gotten to that part, but they kind of explain.
That how it cut to his wife and then gets to him. Yeah,
right.
I think he's got most of the way through that explanation.
Okay. And so I just really like all that. It's like, all these elements, it all, there's a reason for all of it. None of it seems to be an afterthought. It all seems to have a connection to the greater of it all. So
it's so rare when the explanation behind all the mysteries is even more clever than I could have hoped for.
Right.
Usually it's much less clever than I could have hoped for.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
I mean, I haven't got to the end of the issue, but that's my sense of it. Maybe I got a little more than halfway through.
Yeah.
I wonder, well, I haven't got to the end of the issue, but with so much explained in this issue, I wonder if that means this is heading towards a short run, or maybe there's going to be an arc and then a whole different Lucifer story after.
Well, see, that's kind of what I wonder too. I mean, so the next issue, this issue does not end it. I'll tell you now. I mean, it basically sets up what feels like a climax of some sort.
Right.
And who knows, what's the answer to that?
Like this storyline could end in the next 2 issues or so.
Right. And then I don't know. I mean, so that's what I keep wondering. Does this kind of unknowing Lucifer character who's just been kind of staggering every morning, waking up thinking he needs to dig a hole somewhere, does he disappear? And do we get the suave? Does that suave Lucifer come back? And do we get other stories, of Lucifer being Lucifer based on that?
Well, I definitely hope that they don't stretch it out too long, but I also hope that it continues in some fashion. In my memory of the original Lucifer, there was one long story that you realized by the end, but there was also a feeling of a lot of shorter stories within the structure.
Right.
That's classic Vertigo.
Exactly.
Before we got this era where stories go on for 20 issues.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, to me, there feels like there's elements of kind of quasi love story in this. I mean, I like it when they take a character like Lucifer and whatnot, and he's not totally alien. He has these. He even has these fallacies beyond what you would consider the standard. Well, if Satan's going to have, issues, this is what they're going to be, kind of thing. That Lucifer has these other. I mean, why? Why? No. Why is he done what he's done in this issue? Because in this issue, it kind of says what he's done. So now it's, well, why has he done that? He has these kind of, he has these human compulsions, or what I consider human compulsions. Why has he done those things? I mean, some of the complications that are happening now to him, in some sense, are his own fault for not leaving things lie. This person's gone, is gone. Leave it alone. And he can't leave it alone. He has his own obsessions, and that's kind of potentially gotten himself in the problem that he's in. And I like those kinds of things too. There's just so many elements about this comic that I just absolutely love. That it really is the book I'm most excited about when it comes out, and I get it. Because like I said, the art in and of itself, I really love the story, the complexity of it. I like a ton. The coloring, like I said, this kind of odd color palette that they're using at because like I said, they're not true colors. They're not, like, it's not green. It's this other shade of green. It's not orange. It's this other shade of orange. All those different parts of it. I just really, really, I really
he
like
always
a lot.
finds interesting shades of things, and yet the colors never interfere. So you could love the colors, but it's never gonna take away from the storytelling.
Right. And it doesn't take away from the art. I mean, the art does.
Nothing is obscured, and the art itself is brilliant.
It does its job. It's not a book where the coloring is heavy lifting.
Yeah, I love this page here, for instance.
Right.
It's And I feel like the Fuyamura brothers really get to shine in creating all kinds of hellish creatures. It's not exactly like Hieronymus Bosch, but it made me think of, you know, that kind of creativity on the hellish creature side of life.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, well, I wanted to mention one that didn't come out in the week we're talking about, but I don't think I've seen you talking about Gunning for the Hits 2. Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Have you talked about it somewhere else? But
no, I haven't. That was a week that I just didn't talk books.
All right. Okay. Because I didn't originally pick it up, and I remember when you first got it, I even commented on your video, oh, books about music usually don't work.
Right.
And you and some other people talking about it made me just grab the first 2 issues. And now I love it. It's very based on the narrator's personality. And it's more novelistic, like a modern, I don't know, like one of those novels that was popular in the 80s about some young man in New York City who does too much cocaine or something.
Big Lights, Big City, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. It definitely has those kinds of elements to it, doesn't it?
But I'm really enjoying it in comic book form. I suppose in a book novel form, it might feel like old hat or something.
Right. I don't know what I think of it. There's elements in it that I definitely don't care for. I don't know. I mean, and I don't know how much of it is, you know, they read the back matter about his own, the guy who writes it, his own personal,
his own career
through it. There's a level to it that's to me is almost obnoxious. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not cocky.
I'm not high on it. I know there's other people like David Lee who just thinks it's awesome and whatnot. I'm not.
Well, I'm in the David Lee camp on this.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't know. There's some stereotypes in it that I know have offended people.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where those were because I don't.
Well, the lawyer is clearly a stereotypical Jew representation of a lawyer in the first issue.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that his friend who cuts off people's fingers with a guillotine?
No, he's just there's those couple pages in the first issue that just have like cartoonish type characters. And he's talking about all the elements of the music industry. And one of them's a big nosed, screw you out of your money, Jewish seeming lawyer kind of thing. So I just I didn't
pick up on the fact that he was Jewish seeming.
Yeah.
Even though I'm half Jewish, I'm not sensitive enough to notice that.
I guess my other Jewish friends were in my ear going, "Oh my gosh, did you see this?" So, and I get it. And I can see where that's at and whatnot. So I don't know. But see, I'm like you in the sense that I love music a lot. It's a huge part of my life beyond comics. And I always kind of want there to be a marriage between the two. And how often is that ever successful?
Right.
And for me, I don't know that this is that either. Because
it's not really about music. I mean, it's about music somewhat.
And see, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be about the music. I don't want it to be about the dirty side of music. And a lot of it was kind of the dirty side of, and it's like, I love comic books, and I probably loved, in a lot of ways, I loved comic books a lot more in the 80s when I didn't know everything that was going on in the background, and how often certain things about comic books get wrecked for me because with social media and being able to have access to as much information as we do, it kind of, it taints stuff for you, kind of a thing. So
yeah,
I'm trying to remember if I even read the second issue. I have it. I don't know if I've read it yet. I think
in the second issue, there's hints at a kind of more Hollywood type of plot where maybe he used to be a soldier of fortune or a mercenary of some kind.
Well, right, because I know he pulls guns out.
And he meets someone else who is now the bodyguard of the David Bowie-like character, who was once also a soldier of fortune. And apparently they each betrayed each other and didn't expect to see each other alive again. Or I'm not clear who betrayed who, but so that's more.
Which is where you get the gunning for the hits part and the gunning part. Okay, yeah.
So that's where this is going to go off more into, they could turn it into a Bruce Willis movie type of thing.
Okay, because I mean that first issue, the whole, I want X amount of money and a blowjob from you, and all of those elements that, you know, the backdoor wheeling and dealing, between reading that issue of the backdoor wheeling and dealing and then reading the back matter, his kind of, you know, this is how I got to where I am writing this comic. I was like, oh, right.
Well, I think in the second issue, I particularly started in, so you haven't read it yet. So I don't want to give away stuff then. I particularly started just enjoying all the sleazy characters. Like sometimes it bothers me when I don't have a character that I'm really rooting for.
Right.
But sometimes I can just revel in all of these awful people.
All the awful people.
And that's the kind of angle I'm taking on this.
Well, I'll dig it out. I'll dig it out and read it then. So,
but and I think also what I liked is it's just not like your typical comic book store comic. And I wonder if it'll find an audience. Actually, I think it's for some slightly different slice of the reading audience than the typical.
Well, I'll dig it out and read it. My comics are still in California somewhere, so I've got time to.
So you have some time.
I have time to read it, so I'll dig it out and check it out.
Yeah, following the drama of your comic book delivery on Twitter, because just when finally DCBS is not screwing things up. Now the post office is just totally
somebody in the Indiana plant somewhere where the books get dropped off at is chucking my box of comics in the wrong container.
I think it's someone who knows who you are and is getting some evil revenge upon you.
Clearly. And the problem is last week they went down to Missouri. From Indiana, they went to Missouri and then got sent to me. No problem. They came. I got them on the day I would normally get them. They got circumvented. Problem is certain parts of California are like black holes. Things go in there and they take a lot longer to get out. So my comics it took my comics more than a day to go from San Francisco to Oakland, California. So across the bay, it took a day and a half for them to go across the bay. So
that's hilarious. Why would they even have to do that too? You'd think that they could ship them out from either place.
I don't know exactly how
Seattle or something.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how those plants there work or whatnot. But yeah, so if I'm lucky, I will get them on Monday. What's that?
They go to Alaska one week. Your comics?
Yes, they went to Alaska once too. Yeah, which that's not surprising because the Alaska zip codes are awfully close to my zip codes where I am at. Yeah, they've got a lot of the numbers are the same. There's only a couple numbers different. So. That's not nearly so surprising, but
there's a competing roundtable show after you.
There is.
That's what Mike Humple is saying with a question mark. So I don't know. Maybe he misunderstood something we said, or maybe there is.
Well, I don't know.
There's so many live shows now. So many people doing live shows,
which is cool. There's lots of them out there of different people, with their take on whatever kind of thing. So
it seems like there's a whole new generation of YouTubers this year that I only see the tip of the iceberg of them now.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it sounds like it's worse to have your stuff sent to California than to Alaska.
Yes.
Which is really funny.
Yes. Well, there's no place else once they go to Alaska, there's no place else to go. They just they come back kind of a thing. So
there's just one guy in a little shack by the igloo saying, "Oh, this is
right."
Idaho. Or not Idaho, Western Washington.
Yeah,
Eastern Washington.
Yeah, Eastern Washington. But yeah, so whatever. I mean, chances are I wouldn't have gotten to him this week. Well, I would have had time tomorrow. I would have had time tomorrow to read and whatnot. So, and I don't know going forward the next couple weeks. I'm actually going to be out of town, so I don't know, depending on how my flights work and whatnot. Whether or not I have roundtables going for the next couple weeks or not, kind of depends.
Well, I'll contact you when Savage Dragon comes out again.
Okay, so we'll know you'll be back for Savage Dragon week again. So, right on.
I'd like to be back for Lucifer week. I'd like to next time read Lucifer in time. I am, even though I get my comics on Wednesday, I could barely catch up with this previous week that we covered.
Right.
So I've just gone. I haven't managed my time well.
Okay. Well,
Mike is saying, just joking, trying to stay away.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I'm glad if we could make work go by for you a little quicker. I used to listen to videos a lot at work.
Yeah.
It's good to have you, Mike.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and chatting books with me.
Yeah, it was fun again.
As always.
I hope we went for 3.5 hours again. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe only 3 hours this time.
I'm not sure at what time we turned it on and whatnot, but of course, come back anytime. So
okay,
I fully expect you in a month, so I know what's going on with my Savage Dragon and whatnot. But thank you guys for coming on and chatting in the comments. Those of you who are strong enough to hang through the entire episode, good on you. It used to tell me the YouTube used to tell me how many people are watching it at any one given time. It does not do that anymore.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it doesn't give me a body count. So I have no idea if people are watching it while we're talking or not, unless somebody comments in the comments. So thank you guys for commenting in the comments, and anybody who comments afterwards, always appreciated. Until whenever the next time is, we'll be back. We'll be back then. Have a good night, everybody.
Happy travels.